gentlemen.
Live from the van down by the river.
Starring Mike
Murray.
This
Is
SNL.
SNL
By The Numbers.
numbers.
Yes, welcome everybody on in to the Saturday Night Network for the first time in 2026. And we are here to do our season 51 mid-season by the numbers show / patron feedback show. My name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. Very excited to be live for the first time in 2026. It has been a while, but I am so excited. I feel refreshed, ready to get back into it in what will be probably a really exciting, fun back half of season 51. And joining me, my first co-host of the new year, Mike Murray is here. Mike, how are you?
I'm so good, John. Happy New Year. Is it too late to say Happy New Year? But
I don't know. Larry says that you can only do it for 3 days, but I think
January
that when
3rd.
you don't speak to somebody, you can do it. Even if like I saw you for the first time in June, I'll hit you with a Happy New Year.
That's absurd, but I'll say it now on January 12th. So good to be here. It's been a nice break. Just, we'll shake the dust off and talk to some patrons and talk SNL. We have some news to talk about first, right?
Yes, we do. I'm very excited to get into that in just a moment. Of course, we are here as a presentation of latenighter.com. So make sure to go check out everything going on over there. Typically in the past few years, we've done separate by mid-season by the number shows and patron feedback shows to kick off the new year. I figured let's just like merge these things. Like everyone's really excited to talk about the cast members. I like getting more opinions. I figured this was the right thing to do here, Mike.
Absolutely. I love to hear from the patrons and get to see their beautiful faces and chat SNL with them. And we have our end of year show where we bring Bill in and we go for 4 hours. So let's have some segmentation this time and have a lot of guests. Great. Can't wait.
Yes, it'll definitely be a good time here tonight. Okay, so you mentioned that there's some news coming out. No new cast member news as of now. When we last spoke, we were talking a lot about Bowen leaving. We were wondering if anyone would be joining. So I guess we will find out what is to come of that throughout the week or maybe even on Saturday night. So we'll stay tuned for that. But we do have news about the host and musical guests for the rest of January. So when we last spoke to you, we knew that Finn Wolfhard of Stranger Things fame would be hosting this weekend with music from A$AP Rocky. So that we've covered. We'll be talking about that episode all week long, starting on Saturday night. But we did receive news last week of 2 more headlining pairs. So the headliners for January 24th, we got host Tiana Taylor hosting this episode with music from Geese. Tiana Taylor will make her first hosting appearance on January 24th. Taylor has received Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, and Actor Award nominations for one battle after another, and is Grammy nominated for her album Escape Room. Since the press release was sent to us, Tiana has now won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor or Best Supporting Actress. And just really, really cool stuff to get to see Tiana last night basically kick off the Golden Globes by winning the award. So that was very cool. And excited to see her back at Saturday Night Live, Mike, when she made an appearance a few years ago.
Yeah, season 44 premiere, right? The Adam Driver, Kanye West episode. Saw We Got Love, I think it was called, with Tiana in that song when Ye was the musical guest. So did you watch the Globes? How were they? How was our girl Nikki Glazer?
She was great. Yeah, I honestly thought that the opening was one of my favorite award show openings in a while. And it wasn't like super over the top or like there's not gonna be jokes that maybe the Leo DiCaprio joke will be something people remember. But I just think she balanced really well doing a roast, but also showing love to everybody there. Like some people don't know how to find that. Like they go too hard in one direction. She found the right balance, I think.
Yeah, I've long said that Nikki Glazer is the Bob Hope of this generation. So we'll see her back, I'm sure.
That is that what you've long said? That's the take.
Yeah,
I've never heard that. All right. Well, there you go. Good to know. So Geese, of course, is a band that a lot of people have been talking about, sort of like Strokes-esque band that has been, amongst the fandom, talked about being potentially a part of this season at some point. Geese will perform as musical guest for the first time. The band is currently on a world tour in support of its critically acclaimed album, Getting Killed. So the guy from Geese was played by James Austin Johnson, I believe, in the last episode of the show. So that was some speculation we had, Mike.
Right. And I'm curious if Jadge knew that at the time. I mean, he's probably a fan and had that impression, knew that he could do it. So maybe pitched that, but it would be even more of a reason if Geese was showing up to 8H soon. And you already had that, foreshadowing in there with him doing that impression. That was the first time I had ever heard of Geese and was in that pre-tape.
Cameron Winter is the name that we're looking for there, of the guy that he played on December 20th. And yeah, I don't know for sure, but I would think that most likely they would have an idea that Geese was coming in January. I'm sure they were all big fans. And sometimes even cast members, when they get enough leverage at the show, can push to have a specific host or musical guest be there. I wouldn't be surprised if the talent department was talking to cast members about like, what type of bands are you listening to and all that, or like they had their ear to the ground on this. So exciting to see Geese at the show, and very excited for Tiana. I think it's really cool that they got her there. I was late to the party, but I just watched one battle after another and she was fantastic in it. So excited to see it.
Would love to see Leo show up again. I know he'll probably never host, but he did show up with Jonah Hill that one time. So get Leo back would be great.
I think it's going to be one of those things that, like, if he gets like pretty late in his career and then there's like some sort of petition, maybe he's the type of guy that we can get. But
yeah, I'm sure Leo would definitely listen to a petition.
You never know. Yeah. Nick, like I said, Nikki had a great joke on Leo last night, talking about all the things that he's done in his career before his girlfriend turned 30, which was really, really well done.
Probably hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about what's coming up for the next episode. So, Mike, January 31st, the 1000th episode of SNL. You could have given me 1000 guesses. I never would have gotten who is hosting this episode. So here we go, where on January 31st, season 51, episode 12 is hosted by Alexander Skarsgård, who is there as host with music from returning musical guest Cardi B. Alexander Skarsgård is hosting on January 31st the Emmy and Golden Globe Award-winning actor Next Stars in the Moment in theaters on January 30th and Pillion in theaters February 6th. Cardi B will return for her second appearance. The Grammy Award-winning artist kicks off Little Miss Drama Tour on February 11th following the release of her newest Billboard #1 album, Am I the Drama? What do you think of our 1000th episode headliners?
They finally got Eric from True Blood, so that's exciting. That was a huge college dorm room show for me, so I've seen every episode of True Blood, which is something I can't say for most things on TV. But excited. I like Alex Skarsgård, another Jadge connection, because he did portray Stellan Skarsgård in the that like Danish play sketch earlier this season. So we did another impression that was a foreshadow from James Austin Johnson. And then Cardi B, how polite that they put her in the Super Bowl bye week. So hopefully, that way she wouldn't miss Stephon Diggs and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. That's probably just good planning, good synergy from everybody.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's probably why they did this. But I'll just have to say, I get it. Like, they've done a lot of celebrating last year. They did Amy Poehler. This is such a slap in the face. Come on. Like, you couldn't have given us any connection to the show. Like, there's even in like the press release, there's no talk about this. I know NBC has the Olympics and there's like the Super Bowl and like all this stuff that's happening. Like, are you kidding me, Saturday Night Live? You have an opportunity here where you can actually get people to pay more attention to the show and you choose to look the other way. I think this was a ridiculous choice, and I will shout it from the rooftops.
Wow. All right. Well, we know.
You don't agree?
You don't like Swedish people? I get it. All right.
Hey, Skarsgård could be the best host ever. Great. I'll give him a shot. Why are you hosting the 1000th episode? It's crazy.
Maybe they don't know it's the 1000th episode. Maybe we're giving them too much credit.
They know. We've been counting down. They know. Do it for the fans.
They listen.
There's a lot of great things that have happened that the show has given us in the last year. This was really disappointing. So
now the prop bet really is, will they mention it at all? Because we were saying that all season about who would host it, and if they did, like, how would you celebrate it? What would you acknowledge? And now that they have someone who's never been on the show, do they even mention it in some capacity? Is now what I'm looking forward to.
Well, Marcelo's been bringing it up in the warm-up. I know that's not live on air, but he's bringing it up in the warm-up for every episode anyone's been in the audience this season. He's like, hey, guys, it's the 1000th episode. Everyone's like, woo. And then he's like, no, just kidding. So I was like thinking, okay, the show knows it's going to happen. Maybe they're saving Steve Martin. Maybe like Bill Murray finally. Like, I was like, Alexander Skarsgård. Are you kidding me? So
this is very SNL of them to do.
It's very SNL of them to do. I will live with it. He's the Julia Stiles of our time, but yeah, disappointing stuff. Anyways, all right, but we'll move on. We'll have fun that week. We will celebrate in our own way because 1,000 episodes is no small feat. So congrats to SNL on that while we talk through everything they have done in the first half of the season in this episode. So here's how the show is going to work tonight. Mike, we're going to bring in, there you go. I didn't want to get you off screen. There you go. We're going to bring in different patrons every 15 or so minutes, similar to the way we do on our monthly feedback shows, except this time it'll be a little bit different. We're not just here to answer questions from the audience. We are here to talk through specific cast members and how they have done so far this season. Mike will introduce each cast member, talk about some of the analytics, and we'll get all of our patrons' opinions on these cast members and what we may look for from them through the rest of the season. So Mike, are you ready to bring in our patrons here that are coming up?
Absolutely. My favorite one to start. You just mentioned
Absolutely.
them.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't play favorites. There's probably no other patrons listening, so I didn't say that.
Yeah, I almost jumped the gun because we are going to bring in first, my man Eric is here. Eric, how are you?
Hey guys, great to see you, John and Eric over there. Eric Murray.
Yes, excited. I can't wait to talk to you, Eric. Though this is going to be a thrill.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back on some kind of By the Numbers show.
Yes, a lot of fun here. For sure. Let's bring in, joining us as well is our man Matt is here. Matt, how are you?
John, Mike, I don't feel slighted. It's okay. So, but thanks for having me on the show, Mike. I'm a stats nerd from basically birth. So your show is fantastic. So I'm a huge fan of your particular show, but the whole network, of course. But
thanks, Matt. You're my favorite patron. I don't know if people know that, but
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, we'll now call Mike Matt from now on. How about that? And joining us last but not least to kick off, we're bringing a huge party to open up the show here tonight, is our friend Scott. Scott, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's been quite a time. I'm looking forward to talking. I'm looking forward to tying it up.
Great, Scott. Great to have you here. All right, Mike, we're going to kick things off by talking about a cast member that there was a lot of interesting conversations about coming into this season. He had a very interesting premiere, and then basically we didn't see a lot of until last episode. So, Mike, who are we going to talk about first here on our By the Numbers show?
We're going to talk about Cam Patterson, rookie of season 51, who bookended this season so far, season 51 in 2025, with 2 update appearances. So in the meantime, in the middle, didn't see a ton of him. So he is last place basically in all the stats, but has been really interesting to watch. Is one of my favorite storylines is to see when Cam Patterson will be really unleashed in this season, if at all.
All right, so we're talking about Cam first. We got a slideshow if you're watching us on YouTube, so we'll see some of the data here that Mike has put together. So our power ranking, he's last currently in the power ranking at a 33.8. He's tied for 12th in appearances. Of course, you got to count Joseph Shea in there as well. So near the bottom, 26 appearances for Cam Patterson. Only 17 minutes of screen time, last in screen time as well. And really 2 notable roles, update first episode, update last episode. Eric, how are you feeling about Cam Patterson halfway through this season?
Well, yeah, there's not too much to talk about here other than his update roles. I will say, anytime he's on screen, I feel like he brings a certain infectious cheer to any of the sketches he's in. So I like him for that. And I'm just like excited and hoping every time he shows up that he's going to do something. But yeah, haven't really seen much from him. The other thing I'll mention about him is it is good that we have kind of a what seems to be a personality on the show. I think at this point we do have quite a few personalities, but the thing is, other than update, we haven't seen that much of that personality yet. So I mean, I'm really looking forward to see what Cam will do the rest of the season, but yeah, thus far not too much.
Yeah, Matt, this definitely feels like a story that is developing. It's ongoing to see what he can do here. It does feel like the show was holding him back, or maybe he just didn't figure it out and not enough time for us to be able to come here halfway through the season and get excited about him. But these numbers are not great.
No, I mean, look, it's 9 episodes in, so it's still to be determined how he's going to be doing going forward. And yeah, I did like him in the one sketch, the Elf on the Shelf sketch. I liked him in that. I thought he was good there. If he can get to a point where people are writing for him, I think then he'll really start getting the numbers up and really starting to get more and more screen time. And I think he just needs maybe not a writing partner to help him out with that, but just to learn to get going with the show, and where he's not just on Update. I like him on Update, but in order to really be, to jump up here, he'll need to be basically with another writer, basically get with a writer or two and find his voice in a sketch. And then once he does that, I think, it's still early yet. He can still, get up there and really start shining, because he's got potential, but I think he just hasn't really shown it yet, but it's still early, I think.
To me, I think that if you told me a rookie cast member was doing okay at one specific section of the show and not great in any of the others, I would say Update is the worst place for him to be doing okay. And I know he's a stand-up. I know they want to put him out there, and maybe that's where he feels more comfortable, but it doesn't give me enough faith that that's going to translate to other sections of the show yet. I want to be able to see, like, at least if he was great in pre-tapes or great in live sketches, then I'd be like, okay, we can translate that. Maybe we can get him on Update. Updates feel so singular. It is a little bit of a question mark to see how they're going to stretch him out beyond just short appearances and sketches. So, Scott, I want to get your opinion here on Cam as we continue our discussion.
Yeah, it's his two major pieces are two solo Update pieces. It's not like he's in the couple that no one expected. He's not working off of anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough to go through and figure out what his path is here. Mike, do you want to jump in and tell us, you've covered at least. Sorry, Scott. Do you want to finish your thought? Go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
That he hasn't quite gotten an in with any of the sketches. His Will John was the most. The Will John and the Elf on the Shelf were the two things where he actually felt like he had a presence.
Yes, I think that's a great point. Mike, you've covered over the last few years the cast members who are newer and have a very slow growth. How do you feel like he compares to some of the others we've seen?
Well, looking at the sketches right now, if you don't look at the, because 29.7% of his time so far has been those two Update spots. And then there's like some real ensemble pieces like the Sebastian Maniscalco Bachelor Party, Love is Blind reunion, which is Mikey Day's The Grinch, the Bob Army with Glenn Powell, where he racked up like a minute or more or around there. So it's really been like, I guess, a little bit inflated, even though the low number of screen time is a little inflated. But I'm looking at the pilot sketch from Nikki Glazer, which is one that he actually had like a decent role in and got to play with James Austin Johnson. Speaking of, like Scott mentioning pairing with somebody, like that was a cool pairing. And we saw him with Jane Wickline, as Scott also mentioned in that impression carousel there. So compared to other rookies, like we've seen way worse in terms of numbers, but this is definitely a trend that doesn't always equal a second season on the show. But speaking of succeeding on Update, we've seen Jane Wickline come back for a second season, who had the same kind of trajectory of killing it on Update, at least getting it on the show, and back for a second season. So I wouldn't be worried about Cam Patterson, but definitely on danger watch for By the Numbers.
Eric, did you have anything else you wanted to say about Cam?
I had a question for Mike. I didn't check this myself, but what was the last cast member that had like only two real lead roles going into Christmas? I don't remember what Molly had exactly, but it could have been
probably. I bet Molly could be one of them. Lauren Holtz didn't get Update until the new year, as well as Molly, so maybe one of those two. But I can definitely look into
Aristotle only had two.
And had two. Yeah,
one of them was a sketch at least.
Right, both of Aristotle's leads were in the first half of the season as well.
Yeah,
that's not a good trend. If you're
well, he's already passed 15 minutes, so that's good.
Yeah,
he's beat Aristotle there.
Yes, I also want to make sure that we talk about our other cast member in your 15-minute slot. So let's move on to the other one that we're here to talk about for this portion of the show. And that's Jane Wickline, who, similar to Cam, has made her bones on Weekend Update mostly. But in her second season, there's a little bit more to talk about, especially recently, Mike.
Yeah, I'm actually higher on Jane going into the new year after Cousin Planet. So I really been talking about this with John on a lot of the shows, that there's this vacuum in the pre-tape landscape. So someone needs to seize it. That could be a Cam Patterson. I loved him in the Martin Herlihy pre-tape. That was great. So Jane and Veronica doing that song in the Melissa McCarthy episode, one of my highlights of the season, maybe top, 3 pieces of this season so far. So I'm not too worried about Jane. I like to see more sketch material that we can feel good about. Thinking of like the Truth or Dare sketch we saw, and the Bachelorette Party sketch with Josh O'Connor, that we had some Jane presence, but nothing really like, ooh, that was good kind of feeling about, just maybe just a person in a sketch. So that's definitely my number one goal for her in 2026 is let's do a pre-tape or a live sketch that really feels Jane-led. That's what I would say.
Yeah, we did have that a little bit with Cousin Planet, which is one of the notable roles that she had opposite of Veronica. We had a couple of update appearances that we put on screen as well. But as looking at Jane's data halfway through the season, she's second to last in both screen time and power ranking, and last in appearances besides Jostin Che. So still not looking great for improvements, though I think, the eye test probably shows you that things are a little bit better than they were before. Scott, I want to go to you first. What do you think of Jane's season so far?
I remember when Jane was dipping out of when she dipped out of the mechanical bull sketch. It was like and then she was like sick, and then the sorority, the mole in the sorority was also another one where everybody just left the room, so it was cutting off her screen time even more in sketches she's actually in. And yeah, the last couple of episodes have certainly been an improvement, but because Jage's the Christmas special sketch was so broad and had everyone involved.
Right. Yeah, and I think that SNL referring to her as SNL's own Jane Wickline was certainly a vote of confidence, I would think, Matt, for Jane, that she can maybe take away from this fall.
I almost wish she were the PDD replacement, that she were just doing the pre-tape sketches like a Cousin Planet, and doing that, or doing Weekend Update. And not really her live sketches. I mean, we were talking about Cam, 9 episodes. Jane has 2 years now, so I don't know if it's going to get better in live sketches for her. So I think if I would almost wish she were just the replacement for PDD. I think that would actually fit her better than being a live sketch performer. And I think that would probably help her cause if she did that. But I don't know if the show's going to end up doing that, but that's kind of how I look at it. I like her quirky songs, but the live sketches, it's a bit of a mixed bag at best.
Look, I'm with you completely, because SNL does have a history of taking cast members and turning them into writers. Scott, did you want to jump in on something here?
Yeah, I think the closest we've gotten in format to what Matt is asking for is from the Walton Goggins episode.
Yes,
the tiny baby shoes. Yeah, right.
Yeah, the tiny baby.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And, look, Tim Robinson was somebody who a lot of people felt like had a very quirky personality, and then they moved him back to being a writer after that. So it is possible, Eric, that we, maybe the path for Jane, if it doesn't drastically improve, is to potentially move her to the writer's room post season 51. But how are you feeling about her season so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could see her writing behind the scenes. I don't know what she's contributed to besides anything she's been in, but obviously it's her second year, so probably not much. but yeah, I mean, I do think it's definitely an improvement upon last year, and I am sort of excited to see her in a sketch, if only to see what kind of role they put her in. I think that she has built up her brand successfully enough to where it's almost funnier if they have her play against type, which is something that they don't do with every cast member, because not every cast member has a type like hers. Like, I would almost compare her to, like, the way they're using her sometimes is a way they might have used Vanessa Bayer, which is obviously Vanessa's probably a much stronger sketch comedian, but still kind of, that somewhat awkward, quirky personality getting forced into some like over sexualized role is something that they seem to have put Jane in a couple times this season. So that doesn't always work, but it's always kind of interesting to see where they're going to use her. So definitely an interesting cast member, if not always the best.
It's very true. It seems like there is a Vanessa Bayer, Rachel Dratch, maybe even like quality to Jane, where she could play the awkward person in a sketch. But I think the major difference for me, Mike, is that Jane doesn't have the chemistry with her co-stars on screen the way that I've seen with those previous eras cast members.
I think they've been trying, though. Like, thinking of the Boys podcast with Sabrina Carpenter and having her kind of be the butt of the jokes of the other teen boys, I thought worked well. We know that the Marcelo pairing works well because they're so, juxtaposed, the two of them side by side. So maybe a pairing with Veronica could definitely be a thing, especially musical parodies. We're definitely going to see more of that, I think. But she's, kind of has a lone Fred Wolf kind of thing going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's just her brand. She's going to do more of that, writes for herself, does her own material. And when they have an opportunity to seize where Jane's presence makes sense, then they'll do that. Until then, though, she's not going to be doing like an Ashley Padilla or Sarah Sherman workload, I think, ever, even if she stays in the cast for 10 seasons.
Yeah, look, she could be just one of those cast members that's really dependent on the people around her making her better, kind of like a bad wide receiver or a decent wide receiver, but doesn't have a good quarterback. And then, good quarterback comes along, can throw them the ball better. Someone like a Marcelo on Update or someone like a Veronica in a music video that helps Jane. So we'll be watching for that in the second half of the season. Eric, thanks for joining us to kick off the show here tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This was great.
Yeah, always great to see you. Matt, appreciate you. Love the love for Mike. It's awesome to get to see you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks. And Scott, really appreciate you hanging out with us too.
Thanks for having me.
Great job, guys. All right. Let's keep going here, buddy. We're going to bring in two more great patrons to join us to talk about another couple of cast members. So first, let's bring in my man Fred is here. Fred, how are you?
Fred.
Good. Hey, Mike. Hey, John. Great to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the show. And let's bring in Marcus as well. Marcus, what's up, man?
Hey, John. Great, nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you, Mike. Hello,
hey, Marcus.
Fred. Hello, everyone. And a Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, friends. All right, let's keep going with our show here tonight. And let's talk about the next cast member on the list. And that is Jeremy Culhane. So, Mike, what do we have on Jeremy?
So Jeremy, 30 appearances, has definitely heated up in the last run there, especially in the Melissa episode with the free sample sketch. So we saw that. And Pinwheel was really the first breakthrough in the Nikki Glazer episode. We're looking at 24 minutes, 51 seconds of screen time. Does put him 14th, just ahead of the two cast members we just covered. And he's also 14th in power rankings. So I think if you had to ask me tonight what cast member to buy the stock in now, it's definitely Jeremy Culhane.
I feel similarly. I'm excited to get your thoughts as well, Fred. So what do you think of Jeremy's first half of the season?
Yeah, so Jeremy's really stood out for me. I think it was Andrew Dick in one of your shows that mentioned that he was surprised about what he's ranked at or his power ranking is. And I agree. Like, I feel like whenever Jeremy's on screen, he has like a very strong presence. And it kind of like, so like if you were to do like kind of the eye test, I actually would have expected him to be higher. I think he reminds me a lot of like how Ashley Padilla was last year. Like when she was used, she really stood out and really kind of made a mark. And I feel like that with Jeremy. I think he has like this very like natural ability to kind of like fall into character. It feels very natural, like the characters themselves. So I've been very impressed by Jeremy.
Yeah,
And Fred,
Jeremy
I
might.
think
Go ahead, Fred.
one reason that his power ranking hasn't been high is he just hasn't had that update spot yet. So we get a good 2-minute 40 segment with just Jeremy in prime time doing a character, doing stand up, whatever. That alone can just bump him up right away.
Right, but complete opposite of Cam, right? This is a guy who's been doing really well at live sketches, not update.
Yeah, 19 minutes, 3 seconds. So that's ahead of Ben, Jane, and Cam for the other rookies and future players. So that's made up for 77% of his time has been in live sketch. So we've seen him really all over the place in those pieces, outside cold open, update, and monologues.
Marcus, what do you think of Jeremy so far this season?
Just to piggyback off of Fred right there, essentially, I've also really been impressed with Jeremy thus far in the first half of this season, essentially. More or less, he pretty much like you said, Fred actually had Jeremy also had Ashley start, essentially, where he slowly started to build and build. And I would be somewhat surprised if he doesn't improve on that in the second half of this season thus far, essentially. So I wish him nothing really but the best and hope continues great success.
You got to think that he's probably the biggest beneficiary of Bowen not being at the show. I mean, that's the thing that I'm excited to see. If hypothetically there are no new cast members, who takes that Bowen screen time? And I would think, Mike, that there's a chunk available to somebody like a Jeremy who just feels like they're holding him back in a way where this is a guy who could have a live sketch every episode because his voice feels somewhat unique.
Yeah, that's why really that I want to buy his stock now is with the Bowen news, because SNL really has two choices. It's either going to be, let's try to ramp up after some declination of Mikey and Keenan in the stats and kind of put them forward as veteran presence, or let's invest further into the live sketch performers that we have, which, can't really say much more about Ashley Padilla, but Tommy Brennan, Jeremy Culhane specifically. So speaking of that Padilla comp, she was averaging 2 minutes 50 in season 50, and Jeremy's averaging 2:46. So if he does have a great season 2, hopefully he is back for a second season, then we'll definitely be able to look back and say, yeah, they really had somebody on the bench showing promise and then really took off in year 2.
Well, what's interesting, Fred, is I've been talking on the podcast a lot about Jeremy being this year's Ashley, for last year, if that makes sense. But I do feel like he's almost ahead of where Ashley was last year, despite Mike's analytic about being just a few minutes behind, because of Pinwheel, because the fact that the audience just resonated with this sketch where it became one of our most voted on sketches of the year. And people are quoting it everywhere. And just to have that so early on in your career has to be this big boost where the show wants to put out more of you.
Do we know if he was involved in the writing of Pinwheel at all, or anything behind the casting choice?
Yes, he definitely was involved. So that one,
Okay.
That was the Nikki Glaser episode. So that was Mikey and Streeter with Jack Benzinger and Jeremy.
Yeah, and what's interesting also, in addition to what you're saying, is Ashley was also in a similar position last year where there were, a few more female cast members, so it was a bit more crowded, just like how it's a bit crowded on the male side this year. And despite that, to his credit, he's had a few really impressive sketches that he's led. So yeah, I completely agree.
Marcus, anything else you want to say about Jeremy?
I mean, him starring as him being in the cold open of the first episode of the season, essentially, really pretty much showed the promise that the show pretty much has, essentially, and him and his two breakout pieces, essentially, that the Pinwheel thing, for instance. Every time when I think of the word Pinwheel, essentially, I'm going to easily think of that sketch every time, essentially. And then him being in the first sketch of the evening with Melissa McCarthy was also just impressive too. So it's great.
That really was. I said at the time I thought that was more impressive than the Pinwheel thing, even though that was more quotable and probably funnier. in its own way. Like the fact that he was able to go toe to toe with Melissa was really cool. So really excited for what we're going to get from Jeremy. He's certainly one that I turned on the TV on Saturday night. Like I'm excited to see what we're going to see from this guy for the second half of the season. Let's jump over to someone else I'm pretty excited about. And, this is my man, Michael Che, who I just watched. I talked about this a little bit on the podcast. I just watched in a podcast him discuss that his mom finally noticed that he wasn't hanging out for good nights because he was leaving after Weekend Update. And maybe this is the kick in the ass he needs to be a little bit more in the show. He's just been exclusively on Update this season, Mike. So what do you have to say about Michael Che?
Michael Che is interesting too. We've talked so much last season in this for good reason about the future of Update, the return of Jost and Che. And so, of course, we know they're back for season 51 and for the foreseeable future. We don't really know what that holds. But Michael Che, much like Keenan and Mikey, has seen like a pretty sharp decline. So this is like really the lowest Che screen time that I've ever recorded for a season so far on average. So he's at 3 minutes, 44 seconds. And Update. And as we know, that's a guaranteed spot for him every single week. And we tracked that he was getting like none of the guest correspondence for like 6 episodes in a row. Finally got it in Bowen's last episode with both Update pieces there. So it's interesting to see this dichotomy of Jost propelling forward this far in his career and Che really kind of chilling and taking a back seat. But I would love to see him do more outside Update. We have not seen it since the Pete Davidson premiere a couple years ago in a PDD short. We've not seen Che anywhere else.
Yeah, I read that in your article on Late Nighter, and I was like, what, really? But yeah, I guess it's just, I didn't notice because of everything that was going on with the 50th and how many times Jost has been in sketches that Che is just, sort of just hung out at the Update desk for almost 2 or 3 years now. Marcus, how do you feel about Che's season so far in season 51?
I mean, just like what you said, John, essentially, I also didn't really notice that either, essentially, that, Che hasn't really been on screen that often, that much. And Jost has been getting, like, the correspondence on his side most of the time. In fact, we went through 6 episodes in a row with Jost getting most of the correspondence. And then Bowen's last episode, when Che happened to get both things, essentially. And I didn't even know he was, because most of the time, whenever I see Che, it's mostly in an Update, and we saw Jost most of the time outside of Update, including playing Pete Hetzer a few times this season alone. But overall, I've been enjoying Jost and Che thus far, even though they have been on there for so long. I'll probably continue. I'm still going to be a defender at this point, essentially. But at the same time, I kind of do understand why people feel like they need to update things. But I'm still enjoying what they have thus far.
Yeah, so just to go through some of the data we have on screen here, he's at a power ranking of 46.8. That's 13th overall, just 9 appearances, so last in the cast, and total screen time 33 minutes and 40 seconds for the season. That's 10th out of 16th total. Fred, how are you feeling about Che's season so far in season 51?
Yeah, so this is kind of like maybe like just like a Fred tick or something that, but like when it's uneven, when Jost gets all of the correspondence, something about that rubs me the wrong way. I don't know why. So I really did appreciate that in the Ariana Grande episode, that it was more Che focused. I mean, that being said, I'm sure part of that is also maybe like Che, like I wonder how much of it is like his enthusiasm to have more correspondence, or is it because they just think like Jost, is a bit more popular. I think Che does a great job, and for him, this is probably like an awesome gig. He like loves to write, gets to be an Update, and then still do stand up whenever he wants. So I think for him, this is like a really good scenario. But I do love when he interacts with the correspondence as well. Like I really enjoy Che.
Mike,
I just want to jump in on this early, John. My most frequently asked question about Jost and Che screen time. So in this season, it's a lot easier to point at, as Marcus mentioned, and like that he's played Pete Hegseth, and he was also in the Home Alone pre-tape. So you can point to those and say, oh, no wonder Jost has more screen time. He's in other parts of the show that Michael Che is not. So I wanted to get ahead of this right now, John. 52 minutes, 16 seconds of Colin Jost screen time, just an Update, versus Michael Che, 33 minutes, 40. So we're talking almost 20 whole minutes more this season on just Update between the two of them.
Right. And the other factor to consider is that Brian Tucker has been gone for the first half of the season. We are expecting him to return at some point in season 51. He usually writes for Keenan. We'll talk about this when we get to Keenan, but Keenan had a couple of big roles the last 2 episodes with The Wizard of Oz and The Black Santa Claus, both written by Michael J. So, at least he is definitely involved in another part of the show for this run. But Fred, great to talk to you and great to get your opinions here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you both.
Happy to have you on the show and happy to have you, Marcus. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Fred. Great to be here.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Talk soon.
Let's continue on with our show here, Mike. We're rolling. We're having fun.
This is great. I love this rapid fire. It's
really.
a Jon Schneiderism.
Sometimes we could do an hour each on each cast member, but this forces us to be a little bit more energetic and move the show along. So here we go. Let's continue with our next segment here, where we're going to be talking about 2 more cast members with a couple of great patrons. And first, let's bring in my man Steve is here. Steve, how are you?
John, good to be with you, and good to be joined by the Bill James of SNL Stats, Mike Murray. Nice to see you.
What's going on, man?
Yes, congrats on Alex.
Saber metrics. Well, what should we call SNL metrics?
SNL metrics. I
There
think
you
you
go.
answered your own question.
I think we established the SNL stats, but yes, a big signing. Are you a Bears fan, Steve?
I am as well. Yes. So it's
Okay.
that was quite a Saturday night.
It's quite a Saturday night. Yes, I was very excited when my phone went off and we signed Alex Bregman. So that'll be a
great
conversation
news, John.
None
Thanks.
more so than Jed Hoyer and Tom Ricketts, who will not be hearing from screaming Cub fans at CubsCon this weekend. So
100%. All right. Let's continue with the SNL stuff. Let's
Yes.
bring in Victor as well. Victor, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, everybody? It's great to be here with John again. Great to be here with Mike. Because I love you, Mike. I just want to start that right here. I love you so much. You follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and that really makes you a fan of me. And great to be here with you, Steve. And let's talk some cast members.
Appreciate it,
100%,
Victor.
Very excited and
to see you.
happy that you get to hang out with Mike. Victor, are you using an external microphone? Just want to double check because we want to make sure we can hear you.
These are like new mic. This is a new headphone I have, so.
Okay, no
Hold
problem.
on.
Just you are coming in a little low for us, so I just want to make sure while we get to hear you in this segment of the show, if you just want to go into your audio settings on StreamYard, there's that little gear there, and just make sure that your microphone is selected, and we can still hear you. It's just a little bit low, so I just want to make sure that everyone can properly get your thoughts into the show. But let's keep going. Let's talk about this next cast member, and then we'll test that out, Victor, when we come to you. Let's talk about Ben Marshall here. So Ben Marshall was a writer on the show for a few years. You may know him from seeing him in PDD. And now he is a cast member on the show. He's the one surviving member of PDD on the cast, at least, like visually. I mean, we saw Martin Hurley in the premiere, but for the most part, seeing Ben, no John Higgins on the show anymore. Power ranking, about middle of the pack, Mike, and some interesting stats. So let's go over to you to introduce Ben Marshall's section.
So 25 minutes, 55 seconds total screen time. That's 13th in the cast. So he's got a little bit more, power ranking from some appearances than from just raw screen time. 20% of that, this leads the cast as far as percentage of his own time. So you think about all the screen time that each cast member has, what percentage of that goes to each category. He leads for his stats based on everybody else at 20.2% in pre-tapes. So big surprise there to see the pre-tape guy really comfortable with a fifth of his time as a cast member in pre-tapes. But, we talk about the pre-tape vacuum I mentioned earlier, doing the country song with Tommy Brennan. I Miss My Ex's Dad. I feel like that was the biggest moment for Ben this year. Of course, he had the Sensitive Strippers with Josh O'Connor was another good Ben piece. But seeing him do some musical stuff right off the rip in his first season, I think could be a really cool thing for him. And we've mentioned it before, John, but seeing these rookies really work together a lot is really pumping up all their numbers. They don't feel siloed to me. They feel like this is a class of 5, and that's been really beneficial for Ben as well.
Yeah, and for some of the notable roles I have on screen, I'm actually missing a few there. I don't know why they're not popping up properly, but I did write down other ones. So we do have the work birth sketch from the Polar episode, the Halloween game show from a couple episodes later with Miles Teller, the Gone Without a Trace pre-tape. We got Beauty and Mr. Beast. We have I Miss My Ex's Dad. We also have the Sensitive Strippers. So there's a lot of like big Ben Marshall style pieces, Steve, but the numbers don't necessarily reflect how many pieces he's gotten into the show in the first half of the season.
I think it's been about the quality more than the quantity, for clearly from the notable roles that don't fit on the slide. Because of course, there's been plenty of them. I will say this about Ben Marshall. I mean, calling him a rookie feels like calling Shohei Ohtani a rookie when he was picked up by the Angels. I mean, he was here for 3 years already, and now he's getting a chance to do live sketch experience. So, yeah, I mean, hasn't had a ton of time on stage, but honestly, the question I had where he was concerned, and Mike, I know you mentioned the pre-tape, but the question I had with him was kind of been asked and answered, which was how much live sketch experience would he get, and how well would he do in that role? The answer has been a decent amount, and he's been pretty good in that role. I think the two best roles he's had have actually been in live sketches, as the doula in the work birth sketch and in the sensitive stripper sketch, which I think in my mind was his breakout moment of this first season.
Yeah, Steve, 16 minutes, 45 seconds so far in live sketch, which is more than Jane and Cam. So he's at least in the pack there. So that pre-tape definitely helps those numbers, but I would not be surprised. He'll definitely hit an hour in his rookie year, quote unquote rookie year. He'll hit an hour for his screen time, which is
I would agree with that.
Victor, I want to get your take. Do we have you?
Do you?
Yes, you sound great.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So Ben is very interesting, as we've been talking about. Coming from Please Don't Destroy, and now being a cast member is interesting. And so far, I feel like he's done probably the best out of the 5 newbies, and him being as low as he is very surprising. Because to me, I feel like they've been trying to push him in like as much roles as possible, and that's definitely because people already know him. Like even people who aren't even the biggest SNL fans in the world definitely know who he is. And I feel, aside from some things I've noticed in sketches where he's like having a pause where he's kind of like zoned out a little and then kind of sees the cue cards and then goes ahead with sketch. Like I noticed that with the haircut sketch and with Ashley and Glenn Powell's episode. But other than that, I feel like he's done some decent stuff, and like the Beauty and Mr. Beast, Beauty and Mr. Beast sketch, I didn't really love, but I thought was a great showcase for him, and I really enjoyed his Lance, his update piece, and yeah, other than that, and as well as some tiny bits he's done, like in the Josh O'Connor sketch where he's playing a stripper. I really enjoyed that, and yeah, I feel like he definitely has the qualities to become a great cast member. I feel, aside from what I just mentioned of his like kind of zoning out of doing certain stuff on the show and other stuff, I feel he's done really good, and I'm excited to see more from him. And I definitely feel, even if this next half is bad for him, he's probably still gonna be on the show because it's Ben Marshall, for crying out loud.
Yeah, Mike.
Interesting thing too, talking about power ranking and Ben being as low as he is it's a metric that really rewards consistency, because it's all about averages and screen time and appearances and how much time each one has and all that stuff. Is he has kind of the reverse Cam Patterson stat line right now, where his first episode of the season and his last one, so that's the Bad Bunny and then the Ariana Grande one, were 12 seconds and 36 seconds respectively, where his whole middle has been really good. So if you look at just that, statisticians love to do this, take a knife and just make a really convenient sample size. But his average in those episodes were 335, which is kind of veteran number right there. So when you take in the 2 not so great nights, it brings him down a lot. But I think that Ben's really been utilized like a Mikey or a Keenan in being somebody who's like the 4th guy at the table or the 3rd guy at the table. So I think for Ben, him having that confidence to be just a guy in a sketch is way better than some rookies we've seen.
Yeah, I also I think he's just a big mystery to me, if I'm being fair. Like I find his stat line extremely intriguing. Just the fact that they are clearly making a concerted effort to get something of his in the show almost every single week. So it's like, okay, we want to get Ben in there, but he's just like, he's not as well spread out as I think I would like him to be. You're right. He does play like the third or fourth cast member in a sketch a lot. So the appearances look good, but like, I almost feel that he has no personality in other people's sketches. Like in his sketches, we get Ben, but in other people's sketches, he's like milk
Just
toast.
a guy.
Like, yeah, he's just a guy. And like, that to me is the scary thing, where he's sort of like one of those like, like those like college football players that are like 24 or 25, like they like redshirted a couple years, like and they're like still in college, and you're like, how is this like 26-year-old still there? Like, we're giving him the privilege of being like, oh, you weren't a cast member, but like I feel like he has enough experience that he should be giving more to other people's sketches, and it's not coming across on screen to me. That's just my opinion.
I agree. And four redshirt years, you want to call them that, with PDD, season 47 through 50, I always felt like his acting ability was really good in those PDD shorts, but was definitely the one that had the least amount of brand compared to Ben. Ben compared to Martin and Jon, who could be a little wackier. He kind of had to anchor it a lot, which you always need, especially in a trio like that. You need someone to bring it back down to earth. But him getting the bump, well, we're not seeing Martin really, only except that one time, and now Jon being off the show, has just been kind of a mystery to me. So I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because I don't really know what Ben Marshall's comedy is. When he succeeds, I like it, but definitely mysterious.
Yeah, like I know what it is when he's doing something that he wrote, and I could see the chemistry with the other PDD guys. I just think there's only one cast member this season that I could say for sure I feel like has great chemistry with Ben, and that's Veronica, that we'll talk about next. Let's jump over to Veronica, because I do feel like there's something there. Thank you, Victor. Welcome back. Glad to be here. I feel like Veronica, though, seriously, works really well with Ben. And like, especially you saw it in that Halloween game show, like them together. I felt like there was something there where this is a pairing that should be working together to get their stuff on the show. Clearly, we've seen Veronica work well with other cast members like a Jane, and she still needs to find her voice on the show. But I think that there's something here where she, like, as she's growing, should be working with people who have a lot of experience at the show to get her voice there. So Mike, let's set up our Veronica section.
34 appearances for Veronica, 10th in the power ranking, so did crack the top 10 as a rookie featured player. 29 minutes, 47 seconds of screen time. That's 11th in the cast. Jon mentioned the Halloween game show, but the appliance jingles was her biggest moment, singing with Sabrina Carpenter, Cousin Planet with Jane Wickline, the McCarthy episode, and we did see her for a sizable amount of time, the 10-to-1 sketch, Lily Allen Brunch recently. So I'm looking at her appearances this season. Of the 34, 13 of them have been a minute or more, which is crushing all other rookies. That's really a good metric, because it just shows that sometimes the rookie numbers are inflated of the appearances because they get like 8 seconds in something. But Veronica, we've actually seen on screen for a bunch in those 34 appearances. Also, like, the Jeopardy with Bad Bunny sketch. She was one of the contestants in her first episode. Of course, in the Bachelorette Party, and the Taken Airport sketch, Love is Blind, Boys podcast, and the Bob Army. So like a lot of ensemble stuff that she was on screen for a while. So I think this is the rookie that has the most like star power potential to be on the show for 5+ years. Could have a Chloe Fineman-like career, but is getting off to a way better start than someone like Chloe Fineman, of course, because of the lack of women in the cast. So talk about being the third or fourth person in the sketch. Veronica is like getting those roles every episode because they need a second or third woman in the cast.
Yeah, Victor, I still haven't figured out exactly what Veronica's brand is on the show yet. Like, what defines her as a character in the cast? Is it, this Cousin Planet thing that she's sort of quirky with Jane? Or is she more taking on like the, sample woman in a sketch in the way that Chloe does a lot of the times? Or does she have a weird energy like Sarah? Like, what is it that Veronica is going to bring consistently to the show? And how do you feel about her first half of the season, Victor?
Well, something I saw when I was looking at TikToks of various cast members, and I saw one a post say that someone who likes Veronica, but they feel kind of the problem that's having that maybe she's having as well as Jane is that because they're social media comedians, they're not used to doing everything like in one take. They have like every time to like do another take and do another take and get it to exactly how they want it. And maybe that's the case with Veronica because I am liking her, but one thing I did notice, especially in the free sample sketch from Melissa McCarthy's episode, is she like looks into the camera that she doesn't need to look into the camera, and it's like fine, but if you're gonna do that like for another year and year and year, it's like, is that really something you need to do? Which I don't think it is, and it's a habit that she needs to get out of. I feel very quickly, and I was very excited for Veronica because, as I said here, my first time being here, I don't know anyone personally who likes SNL, but when I was looking at her TikToks, I did see a lot of people that I know in real life like a lot of her TikToks. So like clearly she's big enough that I could go up to someone at my school and be like, oh, hey, you know this person? They'd be like, yeah. And so I was very excited for her. And like right off the bat with the appliance sketch and Sabrina's episode, I really enjoyed that, as I felt it wasn't necessarily the funniest thing ever, but it was a great showcase for her. And I was expecting a lot more live sketches from her. And yet I feel she has just kind of like stayed back and still have been good in tiny doses. But I think right now what she needs to do is to anchor at least another live sketch, if not sketch, then be on Weekend Update, maybe even play herself and just do something. But yeah, I am very excited about Veronica, and I want to be a like I want to like see like what she can do, and just yeah, she's a very interesting case that even though I'm liking her, I'm not I don't have a whole lot to say about her, even though I want to.
Thanks, Victor.
Right.
I was gonna go over to Steve. I was just had this thought. I feel like Veronica is like a higher ceiling Melissa Villaseñor. I feel like the usage and the quirkiness, some music ability is very much like that. But Melissa had the opposite circumstances because was always playing fourth or fifth behind Kate 80 Cecily and her time there. So I think Veronica has like a big upside, but has a very Villaseñor je ne sais quoi.
That's a very interesting comp. That's a comp I had not thought of. Where she is concerned, I think her ceiling is actually higher than Melissa Villaseñor's was. Even though I liked Melissa Villaseñor when she was on the show, I'm in the same boat where John is actually. She's done a lot of stuff, and some of it's been pretty good. I don't know what her role is on the show. It could be the fill the pre-tape void. It could be, the second woman in the sketch type of role. I'm looking forward to finding out because I think her best work is still ahead of her. I don't think we've seen her best sketch yet.
I don't think so either. I mean, I think I enjoyed the appliance jingle sketch. I thought it was a fun bit that she did. And the fact that she has such a great ability to sing gives me a lot of confidence.
That's going to be her race in the hole, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's like sort of like she has pocket aces and we're waiting to see when she's going to play them. But like, I think that it is probably like one of the best paths you can have as a rookie woman, having so little competition to fight for airtime on to get cast in a sketch. So clearly that is part of the reason why her appearances are so great, where she's at 34. That's 7th out of 16 cast members, so she's in the upper half in her rookie season. So we are getting a lot of Veronica. 11th in screen time, 10th in power ranking. Clearly they are putting her on the show and they feel very fine with it, but we haven't gotten the thing where it's like, oh yeah, we need to get Veronica's voice on the show instead of just Veronica. And that's something that I think will be a major storyline over the back half of the season of, does the show either push her to do it or does she find a way to get it on? And I will say, like, great for her. One of the tricks of the trade is, you get close with some of the headliners who come to the show. Clearly the show is very high on Sabrina Carpenter, and her becoming very good friends with Sabrina. That's good. It's great for Veronica. So like, I think that these things are all good to watch. Yeah, Victor.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like the fact that she's even hanging out with her is, I'm jealous of her. And don't tell anyone. But what was I saying? I feel kind of the same thing with Veronica. Is kind of what we are kind of saying about Chloe, of how like she is more of the B role kind of girl, but she has the potential of being an A role. And again, I feel like we can see that with her. But right now, I think so far it's just best to have her at least co-lead something like that Sabrina sketch, and like Cousin Planet, because that was really a Veronica and Jane thing. But yeah, I feel like she can, like I said, she can anchor a sketch, but right now it's like I'm putting like throwing all like the dices in there and just see what happens with her. And yeah.
And John,
So
while
we
we're
shall
making
see.
comps, Veronica has almost identical stats to Heidi Gardner's rookie year. Just looking at that now, almost the exact by a second episode screen time average. Heidi had 30 appearances at this point in her career. Veronica has 34. So power ranking is almost identical as well.
Very interesting. Okay. All right. Well, Steve, thank you for joining us here for this section of the show. Great to get to catch up with you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks a lot. And Victor, appreciate you as well.
Yeah, I've been, first of all, great to be here. And real quick, make sure to check out the Not Right for Popcorn Player podcast with me and Johnny Watson, aka Oversimplified Productions. We just released our first 2 episodes. We first talk about Grown Ups, and we're going to soon talk about Blues Brothers, and then we're going to talk about a movie that I'm not sure a lot of people have heard of called, now I'm just forgetting, great. It's an Eddie Murphy movie. You'll find out. But great to be here, and can't wait to see it for my 5th time. So
thanks for all the support, Victor. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Victor. Make sure to check out Victor's podcast as well. All right, Mike, this has been a lot of fun so far. 6 cast
we're cooking right now.
Yeah, we are very much cooking. So we are just waiting for, there you go. We got our buddy Ian, who's going to be joining us for this next section of the call. So let me bring on Ian, if you're ready to go, man. There you go. We got Ian there. Ian, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
We can hear you great. Happy to see you, man.
You too. Happy New Year.
Ian's an OG.
Yeah, Ian's one of the OGs for sure. So, Ian, let's dive right into our first cast member we're going to be talking about here today, and that is Tommy Brennan, who I think had a very interesting first half of the season, Mike, where no expectations for Tommy. Everyone was like, all right, another stand-up, and he proved that he had some other tricks in his bag.
I think definitely the cast member with the most to prove coming into this cast. See how the cast changed, who was removed or who left, and then who comes in. Think of like, oh, what's Tommy gonna do? Like, what shoes can he fill? And he's kind of been doing it all so far. So I don't think I've seen a ton of upside so far, but I like what I have seen. He's pitching a perfect 50.0 power ranking that puts him 12th, 29 appearances, so right below Jeremy and Ben. He's got 26 minutes, 53 seconds of screen time. That's 12th as well. We saw him get an update pretty early. We saw him work with Nikki Glazer in the first sketch of the night in the karaoke. And of course, Miss Max's dad, the country pre-tape with Ben Marshall. So I think Tommy Brennan's expectations have been met and exceeded so far. I don't know where I see him in 2 years, if he can be a Mikey Day, but like he's got something going on that I've been appreciating so far.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, except he was MIA the last few weeks of the show.
Yes, went wicked cold.
Yes. I don't know what happened, but everything, like if we had done this, and we were doing By the Numbers shows then, but if we had done this like mid-season show through 6 episodes, like holy shit, Tommy's gonna be a star. Now
Absolute peak in Glenn Powell, 8 minutes, 36 seconds. And then after that, the average has gone down from to a minute 25 over 3 weeks, which is rough.
Yeah, what did Tommy do? So, Ian, what do you think of Tommy's season so far?
Well, I have to say I was a little uneasy when he first was announced because I'm a Longfellow fan. And I was like, well, what is he bringing to the table that Mikey isn't? Or Michael Longfellow, because we have Mikey Day. And I guess, he's a singer, which is cool. He did win me over with I Miss My Ex's Dad. I loved that sketch, and I loved everyone's performance in it. But I was like, all right, I guess. But I'm still sad Longfellow's gone, regardless of how good Tommy's doing. I do like him, and I'm excited to see more of him. But when I saw that we were talking about him, I did realize it's like I feel like I haven't seen him in a minute, and so I was like going back to read, look at all of his points, and I feel like those were the ones I agree with, the ones you have listed on the screen.
Yeah, we got an update from where he appeared as himself on episode 3, the family karaoke night, which was him opposite of Nikki Glazer. And he did have that relationship with Nikki going into the episode. So she's going to pick a Tommy sketch. That totally makes sense. Great for Tommy. And then jumping off of it, he takes advantage of that in the Glenn Powell episode where we get I Miss My Ex's Dad. But then really nothing in McCarthy, nothing in O'Connor, nothing in Grande. Like he was just there. And it's surprising. And that's sort of like unfairly what we may have expected from him, Ian, but it was weird that we just didn't get much from him the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense, at least for the Christmas one. You know, it was kind of the, Bowen's time to shine, and there's a lot going on. But other than that, they could have found ways to squeeze him in the other episodes, I feel like.
He did have that 10-1 Melissa McCarthy, John, with the Christmas decorations, the couple played by Bowen and Melissa. He was the only cast member outside Bowen in that. So he's going to be one of those guys we look back and go, was Tommy Brennan in the cast with Bowen Yang? And like, oh yeah, they had that one sketch together. So that was interesting to see, a good spot for him for sure. Very Longfellow-esque though, Ian.
Yeah, it's like a Marcello and Cecily thing where they sort of like crossed over for a little bit. But I did mark that down as like more of a Bowen sketch than a Tommy sketch. But you are right that he was that other cast member in there. So we did have a moment. Ian, did you want to comment on that?
I forgot he was in that.
5th longest appearance of his career, Ian.
Dang.
227. AI photos. He's one of the grandkids in there. And of course, he's in the Sebastian Maniscalco bachelor party sketch. He's one of the guys there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see like what the crossover will be between him and somebody like Mikey moving forward, or if he does continue, the fact that he was singing and I Miss My Ex's Dad, and then we found out a little bit after that he sung in his audition. He's one of those rookies that I feel had a better first half than anyone could have possibly expected. Obviously the last month wasn't what he would have wanted it to be, but I think he can lean on the fact that he had some really good hits for a few episodes, and the runway is there. So let's see what happens with Tommy moving forward. Let's jump over to the aforementioned Marcelo Hernandez, who, is somebody that I think a lot of people expected could be near the top of the power ranking this season, but not so, Mike.
Yeah, definitely the biggest surprise coming into the season. Bad Bunny tapped to host the premiere, and they had such great chemistry when he hosted a couple years ago. And so, of course, Marcelo had a great night, and we're saying, is he going to take over the show in 51 after this anniversary year? Is it Marcelo's time? Devin and Longfellow are gone, and he's the only one left from that class. And now he kind of went cold until that Sebastian Maniscalco sketch, which was great and made headlines. And Sebastian himself commented on it, talked about being offered to join it. And we've seen Marcelo off the field doing a lot. So his star power hasn't diminished or waned at all. But his SNL presence, I think, is leaving a lot to be desired at this point in his career, where he should be shaping up to be where Bowen Yang was in like season 48. And Marcelo just hasn't really met the mark yet. But this next half of the season is kind of like, I don't want to say make or break. I don't think Marcelo's in any danger at all in this show, but I feel like it's his time to show what he can do outside of the few things that we know he excels at.
For sure. I also have some, notable roles here. Some of them are cut off. So I'll just read out what we have from the season so far. So from episode 1, where he came out the gates hot, it looked like this was going to be Marcelo Hernandez's season coming out of the premiere, where we had ChatGPT inventing Spanish and Bad Bunny hosting the premiere. He then gets a couple of update roles, episodes 2 and 3 with Grant and Alyssa, and then the movie guy. Then he has that Italian restaurant sketch at the end of the Miles Teller episode. That's, one where it's like, okay, well, they wanted to give something to Marcelo every episode. It feels like they're really trying to work him in the show. Gets a little bit quieter after that. He probably gets his most praised sketch in the Sebastian Maniscalco sketch that we got in the Glenn Powell episode, before getting to see him on a Weekend Update and Josh O'Connor, and then last episode, Dancing 101 in the Ariana Grande episode. So he has had a lot of roles given to him so far this season, but it's sort of similar to a Ben Marshall, Ian, where I feel like they're using Marcelo in big doses, but he's maybe somebody else who isn't excelling in other people's sketches. Like he almost feels like he's operating on SNL in a silo compared to some of the other cast members. So how are you feeling about Marcelo's season so far?
I think it's going fine for him. He's had some good moments that stand out. I feel like it was kind of a nice roller coaster. And who knows what could happen with Bowen gone if we don't get anyone new, especially not another male. If we do, hopefully it's not another male, to give people like Marcelo and Tommy and everyone else, they can move them around a little bit more, since that's kind of heavy on that side. But I'm glad I like Domingo, but I'm glad we kind of are just like letting it set away.
Yeah, I think everybody is. Mike, what can Marcelo do in the second half of the season to make a bigger impact?
More impressions if he has some in the bag, like the Maniscalco. That was clearly a situation where his skill set shined, big energy type of role, type of impression. Looking at the sketch screen time, he's actually in last place in the repertory cast, other than Joseph Che, of course, in live sketch material. 19 minutes, 28 seconds, puts him behind Veronica for the features, and obviously Ashley. But so he's last place there, which is surprising. It's because a lot of his time has come during update. I would kind of like to see him maybe shy away from the desk a little bit in the second half, do some more live sketch material. And we have seen some moments of him playing himself in monologues popping up, and he's got, he's Mr. Personality there. So 26.4% of his time has been on update, which is the highest in the cast outside Cam for the non-update cast members. And that's a stat that I would have been shocked at if you told me in September that he'd have more bulk on update than like a Jane Wickline, who's right below at 23.3%. But I think that's the answer: is give Marcelo the stage. He's good with a live audience. He's very charismatic. Give him some room to play with and off the desk.
I am also curious how he looks in a post-Bowen world, where him and Bowen, I put them in the same category of cast members that have a very, clear personality. We know what type of sketches they like to do on the show, and they weren't taking over the season in the way that maybe in the preseason we thought that they could have. Bowen, it's all been explained now because he was leaving the show anyway, so they were never going to push him to be like all in this season in 51. Marcelo, a little bit curious, like why he has been taken aback a little bit. I think a lot of people are enjoying having Marcelo in slightly smaller doses than him completely taking over the show, but it will be curious to see if maybe this just jump up a little bit post Bowen. So yeah, Mike.
About 40 seconds less Marcelo per episode this season than last. So he's the biggest really dip. I mentioned Keenan and Mikey and Che, but did not expect to see Marcelo have that small of a... Oh, actually, it's worse than that. He was 455 last season per episode. He's at 401 so far this year.
Wow. Significant drop there. So that is going to be fascinating to see what happens in the second half of the season. Ian, anything else you want to say on Marcelo?
I just don't think that I don't think we have anything to worry about with Marcelo. I think everybody loves him there. They'll find, if they need to use him, they will, I know he just dropped that special on Netflix, and maybe that's going to bring his name out there and bring him back into the light a little bit more. So who knows what will happen. But as far as the two people we talked about, I feel like Marcelo is safe, not saying anything for Tommy. Tommy, who knows? We're still early in the show, but I think Marcelo is going to be fine, and we'll see more of him come the second half of the season.
That's very true. Okay. Well, and great bringing up the special, but I really appreciate that, Ian, because, of course, that is a big thing that is out now for Marcelo. All right, Ian, thank you for joining us here tonight. Always great to catch up with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ian.
Yes, of course. All right, Mike, let's keep going. Let's bring in our friends. First is Jared. Jared, how are you?
Doing great. You guys able to hear me?
Yes, we got you. Great. Different look we got going on for you today.
Yeah, long day at work, so I figure I just podcast from here.
Okay, no problem. We'll happy to have you here. And then joining us as well for this section of the show is Ajax. Ajax, how are you?
Pleasure to be here in the presence of greatness. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Happy to have you on. And you are here to first talk about Mikey Day, who is coming in next in our list. Mike, what do you want to say about, your favorite Mikey Day?
Mikey Day, when's he calling in? And I said he wanted to call in. So
sometimes
he's at 36 appearances. That's 6 in the cast. So we're still seeing good volume from Mikey Day, but the screen time has definitely dipped. So he's at 38.40. Looking at last season's average per episode was 517. Now it's 439. So I mentioned just a moment ago, he's one of the biggest percentage drops in the cast. We're seeing, a decent amount of Mikey as far as appearances, but the screen time has been lower, hasn't been leading a lot. The Grinch sketch in the final episode of the year was definitely one of them that we saw. But 8th in the power ranking, and we saw one of his biggest appearances of his entire career in the recurrence of Shop TV, the selling the pillow there early in the year with was that Sabrina, right? And then sorority meeting where he was behind the mask, undercover in the sorority. Brad and his dad, though, I think is really the thing to talk about. And this point in Mikey's career, while he's stepping back a little bit from on screen, that him and longtime partner Streeter Seidel are really going for it with these animated shorts, something that SNL hasn't really leaned into in this era of the show. So it's been fun to see that. And of course, his mentorship, I think, has been more forward this year, which I love to see from the vets. Seeing Pinwheel with Jeremy Culhane, we mentioned that talking about Jeremy earlier, is that really felt like one of the most prime examples of having a rookie get their moment led with a vet, just like so seamlessly. End of the night, we see them playing very similar roles, playing off each other and the rest of the cast, and Nikki Glazer as the host. And that's something that Mikey should be doing if he's going to be in the cast now. So I really like to see that from Mikey, because I think he has nothing left to prove. Honestly, he's really done it all, and he's up there with the greats in the stats and longevity and contribution to the show. So here we are, Mikey Day in this season, still here.
It's really interesting. And, I didn't put the Grinch one on there because that's like a Jimmy and Kira O'Sullivan sketch. So I didn't think of it. But it is really a notable role for Mikey on screen, where usually if I'm looking for like Mikey A roles, it's, him in a Streeter sketch. But he's been in a lot more than just his sketches this season, Jared. So it is a very interesting stat line that we have from Mikey halfway through.
It is. And Mike brought up the point. He's been there for 9 years now. So he's really at the point where he can do what he wants. It's great. He's bringing back they're bringing essentially TV Funhouse into the mid 2020s and updating it with pertinent references with Brad and his dad. But as far as like being on the show, I don't believe in like you can only be on for a certain number of seasons. You might as well go as long as you can. And really, he's such a prolific writer within the show and outside of the show. I believe he helped write the movie Home Sweet Home Alone that came out pretty recently. So he's probably going to stick around until he gets tired of it and wants to move on to the next things. But we're seeing a great, versatile Mikey Day with very physical roles, very low-key roles. So he's a great utility player. So I'm happy he's still around.
This is his 10th season cast, but 13th on the show.
Wow. I'm happy too. I do think that one of the interesting things or trends that we're seeing this season is that like he's written more sketches than he starred in. And I think that may be the trend that we're seeing, where if this isn't it for Mikey, maybe he's sort of like weaning off of the show in a way that if he wants to stay there, and I think he would stay there forever, he could be a head writer of Saturday Night Live and not necessarily be a cast member. Like that could be the future of him at the show.
Could be Al Franken-esque.
Yeah, it could be one of those. I mean, Streeter's already a head writer, so I could see him stepping into that role alongside Streeter at some point. Ajax, how are you feeling about Mikey's season so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's just such a strong veteran presence, and he's got these bit roles too. That is like, I love the AI photos with the Glenn Powell episode, where he takes the money and he shows his lack of goods. I don't know, and then I just think that like that hyper realistic mask was so creepy, but it's almost like when they're in the writer's room, he's humble, he doesn't take the big parts, but then he's like, oh wait, I know, let me do this part, just this part. And then he just gets on there and kills it. It's a memorable moment. But
Cal Ryland was his name.
I love SNL names. I love SNL names. They're so crazy. But yeah, I mean, he's he's somewhat of that glue that we talk about, that fill glue that just kind of sticks everybody together. And I don't know what SNL would look like without him right now. It would look different, that's for sure.
Right. And I mean, a lot of people were talking about Tommy comparisons to Mikey in the first half of the season. I do wonder if that's something we end up seeing in the second half, is if Tommy continues to take the role of the quote unquote normal one in a sketch, or the reporter like we saw in that sketch that we talked about, roles that would maybe go to a Mikey Day end up going to a Tommy. I think that could be a sign that we are moving into a post Mikey world, potentially off of this season. But yeah, I still enjoy getting whatever we do end up getting from him. And we are certainly in the longevity portion of our podcast here tonight, where we're going to move on to our next cast member and talk about Kenan Thompson, who has been there forever. He continues to be there. So let's talk about Kenan, Mike.
All right, so Kenan Thompson in his 23rd season, unbreakable record that he continues to break himself. He's the only one able to break it. Every season he comes back, and I was doing some stats reading earlier this year that just the age range, coming in, he was one of the youngest cast members in SNL history when he started back in 2003, and now he's the third oldest cast member of all time, which is just crazy, especially if you're like me and John's age and have been watching when he first started and now are covering the show. And he's prolific, omnipotent, everything adjective describe Kenan Thompson on SNL. He's got 37 appearances so far, which is fifth. He has heated up a little bit in the back half of this first half. He's seventh in the power ranking. Screen time is eighth, so he's kind of middling a lot on these stats, but nothing is very low. 38 minutes and 40 seconds. The notable roles, though, John, you got two of them on there. I feel like in seasons past, there'd probably be 5 or 6 at least by this point. But you got the Wizard of Oz sketch, where he really was the star of that premise, being the Cowardly Lion, asking for a big old thing, and Black Santa Claus in the Christmas episode, which was fantastic. That no sketch has grown on me more after first watch this season than that sketch, which was a Michael Che joint. So I love to see that. So what can you say about Kenan Thompson? Let's go to Ajax to find out.
I mean, it makes sense for the vets to be in the middle of the pack here, but I mean, Kenan, what can you say about Kenan, really? Iron Man. I mean, I love the fact that he's singing again. Black Santa. I mean, let's get What Up With That back. Let's have another What Up With That round. Like, why not go classic Kenan and just go all the way with his classics at the back half of the season? But my favorite thing he did was Zeus in that Experienced Lawyer sketches with the lightning bolt. He just so casually handles that lightning bolt. It's so funny. But I mean, and then Pimp and Helping Hand pre-tape. But yeah, and Stevie Wonder. Kenan is he's always going to be there. He's going to be there 20 years from now. I grew up with him myself. I like Kenan and Kel, all that. And then when he got on SNL, I'm like, no way they hired Kenan. That is awesome. And here we are 24 years later, and he's still there. It's great. I love it.
My favorite Kenan longevity stat is just Google Kenan Thompson and Chris Farley and just watch them in an all that sketch together. It is unbelievable that those two crossed over at some point. But yeah, Jared, I feel like he's like Captain America. They sort of just like, they're gonna put him in the freezer, and then whenever they need him, they're gonna bring him out. And it seems like in the last couple episodes, they're like, you know what? These episodes, we need a Kenan showcase, and he just came out and he could still do it. He's kind of like, he has that like LeBron thing where he could like, put up 30 points once in a while. So how do you feel about Kenan's season so far?
I echo Ajax's sentiment. I remember turning on SNL in 2003 and thinking, hey, the kid from All That made it on SNL. That's awesome. And the kid from All That is still on SNL, which is great. I remember Martin Short saying, and I think it was one of the monologues, gather around, kids, and Kenan, because I mean, he can do anything and everything. If Mikey Day is the glue, then Kenan is the super glue of this cast. He pretty much can play anything. He can do really whatever he wants at this point. He's unprecedented. He's one of the greatest, and I'm very excited to see more fun Kenan roles like Black Santa and the lead singer on Goth Kid on Vacation.
So the interesting thing, Mike, to watch for this back half of 51 is, is Bowen leaving going to cause them to look towards Keenan more? And I think that would be a mistake for what it's worth. I think Keenan's fantastic. I always appreciate the sketches and time we get with him, but I think that there's the role should open up for some of the younger people, but I do wonder if the show, reverts to the lowest common denominator, which is I don't know if the show is so great. We need Keenan. So
I think they will. So maybe much to your chagrin, I don't know, but I think they will. I think Keenan will have a stronger second half, regardless of his future plans of the show. He's just going to be Mr. Reliable, and he just feels, once in a while, Keenan can still surprise us. He can pull something off that I didn't see that he had in his quiver, and, shoot an arrow that was wow, he hit a bullseye again. Way to go, Keenan. He's going to, by the end of season 51, he'll have appeared in 46% of all SNL. So that's really my favorite stat about Keenan that I do every year, because think about 1975 till now and pick any episode at random. There's a really good chance Keenan's going to be in it. And I don't see there's any sign that he's not going to be in 52 either. So it's just, I just laugh at this point.
It depends how much risk they want to take with sketches, because as you mentioned, Keenan is an archery expert. He'll hit the bullseye versus taking a risk on, say, one of the featured players.
Definitely.
Right. And I think that Keenan should always be, for the show, the break glass in case of emergency. It shouldn't be that we're trying to figure out how to get Keenan in an episode, because I think he's there just to back up anybody or back up a show when they really need him. I wouldn't over rely on him. And that's, again, the worry when you lose somebody like Bowen. And I am curious if we looked at the post 48 stats of when Cecily left the show, if those first, back half 48 stats leaned a little bit heavier into Keenan as the show was trying to figure out how it looked post Cecily. So maybe that's something we should look into, Mike. But overall, I'm very curious what will happen with Keenan moving forward, especially off of these last two roles.
He did. He had 2 monster nights the first 2 episodes. Of,
didn't even mean to set you up for that, but there you go.
Yep, he pitched a 9-minute episode and then 11-minute episode with Aubrey Plaza and Michael B. Jordan, beginning of 2023 after Cecily's exit, and then he had a great episode with Woody Harrelson, Molly Shannon at the end of the year too as well. So I think the past data will suggest that we're going to be seeing some Keenan out the gate.
Yes, 100%.
Well, not only that, but you got these first time hosts coming up too. You want a stalwart like Keenan to help you out and get your footing,
Yeah, this is Keenan's month, so we'll see what happens and how these stats.
Someone has to play the principal in the Finn Wolfhard episode.
Yes,
True.
exactly. Yep. Yes. Okay, well, Jared, thank you for joining us here tonight. Appreciate you hanging out.
I really, really appreciate it. Mike, did you do an opening haiku tonight?
I did not do one. I consider this to be a patron feedback show in the SNN canon, and I did not do it. There's no precedent for the patron poetry, but if you got one, you can set it right now.
Yeah, I'll give you one. I'll give you one real quick.
All right, let's go.
Great featured players. Grande's a little boy again. Black Santa is real.
Love it. Thank you very much. Came prepared.
I was booing Mike before the show that he didn't prepare a haiku. So, Jared, you just made up for it. Ajax, thank you as well for joining us.
Yeah, I'll end in the same one I started with. Pleasure to be here in the presence of greatness. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ajax.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, Mike, let's bring in our next 2 patrons here for our next section of the show. And first up, we got Dakota. Dakota, how are you?
Hello. Good to see you.
Yeah,
can you hear me
on the show? But yes, you can hear you great. You sound great.
Okay, perfect. Right on.
And let's bring in Deej. Deej, how are you?
Hello. I'm okay. We hard hired us in the first week of this month, celebrated our first anniversary.
Yay!
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing, Deej. It's not easy to do that. So I'm very proud of you guys. And keep up the great work. All right, let's dive into the cast members that we want to touch on in this section of the show. And we're going to talk about somebody who's had a way better season than expected. Colin Jost, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, Colin Jost is maybe having that Mikey Day renaissance or that Keenan renaissance that we saw in season 47 and 48 with those guys. And I think maybe the most unlikely candidate, because we talked a lot about Jost and Shay coming back. Could have been election influenced. Could have been, some different things that were happening in network TV that caused this to have Jost and Shay behind the desk again. But I think that Jost's appearances elsewhere has really bolstered that. I've been really pleased to see him do other things because they're in the room. They're just sitting there, right? They're in Writers Week. They're at the table read. Let's get them in things. And Jost has risen to the occasion. Maybe Pete Hegseth being in the news has been a catalyst for it, and that's fine if he just fits the archetype. But seeing him in that Home Alone pre-tape playing Buzz McAllister was just perfect. I don't think it's really usurping roles from other people when it's Jost, because it's kind of a joke in itself when Jost appears somewhere else. So I'd really like to see that. He's made 12 appearances, so of course 9 of those being on Update. He's already hit an hour of screen time. He's at 1 hour and 24 seconds, which puts him second in the cast behind Padilla. And notable roles, of course, all the updates, but he's done 2 cold opens and that pre-tape. So seeing Jost do this has been really impressive to me, and I want more of it, honestly. No matter how long Jost and Shay are doing Update, seeing them do other things, I think really adds value to the show. So I love it.
And there was all this talk coming into the end of last season where people thought that Jost might leave the show, and then he feels reinvigorated, like maybe he wanted to do more, or the Hegseth thing just happened to work out. But either way, it's been a very exciting first half, Dakota. So what do you think of Jost's season so far?
Yeah, this has been a very pleasant surprise overall. Only thing I kind of wish is that he would have started doing this sooner, because we didn't really know for all these years he was such a good sketch performer. So to have him doing Hegseth is great, and the surprises Buzz in that pre-tape, the Home Alone pre-tape, was great. If he's going to stick around, there was always the question of whether he and Shay will leave, or are they staying, are they going, what are they going to do? If he's around, might as well jump in and prove what you're worth.
Completely. Deej, how do you feel about Joe so far in season 51?
Loving it. Wish we got more. I would take a Hegseth cold open over a Trump cold open any day. And we know he's everybody's favorite punchable face, but he still has a sense of humor about himself. And just with the last update, when Jay threw that whole, you're doing all my jokes, but you didn't write jokes for me. He just rolls with it. So he has a great sense of humor about himself. He is great on Update, but his current sketch renaissance, I want more. I definitely want more.
For sure. It definitely feels like there was a period of a couple years ago, maybe, where I think he got the host, or he became the host of Pop Culture Jeopardy. It felt like if he got the actual Jeopardy job, then I think that was his path to leave the show. Yeah. Now that that's not available to him, there's not a talk show waiting in the wings. I wonder if, he wants to be there. He's still an amazing writer. He still writes some of the best pieces that we see week after week. Very involved in a lot of the cold opens, even when he's not starring as Hegseth. But just the fact that he's found this extra gear for me, Mike, is something that makes me really look forward to the show this season, because it does remind me a lot of when we had Tina on the show, and you just didn't know if it was going to be an exclusive update night for Tina, or we were going to find a way to get her into a sketch. And it was cool to see her pop up the same way I feel about Jost.
Totally agree. And there's been so much speculation, especially recently with 50 happening, but when will Lauren leave, and who's going to fill his shoes? Will it be a Tina Fey, a Steve Higgins, a Colin Jost? So to see him really take the bull by the horns as a cast member and not just an update anchor is just adds fodder to that, rumor mill, because maybe it's inspired him. You said the word reinvigorated. Maybe it's inspired him to do more comedic acting. You mentioned Pop Culture Jeopardy. That's going to have season 2 this year in 2026 on Netflix. So the work is there in the off season to do those shoots. And maybe he's just having the most fun he's ever had. He's been with SNL the majority of his adult life, met his wife there. He's really put roots in that building. And I think the sky's the limit as far as him in SNL future, not just an update if he does stay on the show in any capacity. And him popping up elsewhere just adds fuel to that fire. And I love to see it from a stat angle.
He has over an hour of screen time so far this season. So similar to last season, really crushing it. They're getting a lot of the correspondence on his side of the desk, as Mike has well documented throughout the first half of 51. Pretty good power ranking, 6 out of 16. So we'll see what happens with him for the second half of the season. Let's jump over to one of my favorite cast members on the show. Always excited to talk about Andrew Dismukes, who is here with his own great brand of comedy. Mike, how are you feeling about Dismukes' season so far?
I'm loving Dismuke's season. He hasn't had the big flash in the pan moments that we've really talked about as he's climbed the SNL ladder, but he's been so consistent. This is the stat I used on the last By the Numbers episode. Only cast member of this season to have 4+ minutes in every week. So he's the only guy in the cast, including Ashley Padilla, Sarah Sherman, or Jost, that can say that hasn't had one single off week. We know he's a great writer. We know he loves live sketch. When I met him that night, I talked about that. Like, I love people that do the bread and butter of SNL, who lean into live sketch and don't just kind of do their own thing. Like, no, bring your best to the SNL format. And I think Dismukes has done that better than anyone since we've been podcasting. So I love to see that. I loved the briefing, the murder briefing he did early in the year with the writing the comic book of Gargirl. Yeah, I love that one. One of my favorite sketches of the year. So he also had a great pre-tape, which he's not known for, the non-alcoholic beer, really early in the season in episode 2. The NHL PSA and the couple who just hooked up. So 2 great Ashley Padilla pairings. We've mentioned it's kind of a Heidi and Mikey sequel. I love to see cast pairings that really work, that they can go back to. But screen time, 5th in the cast. So he is behind Jost is the on the male side, most screen time, 49 minutes, 39 seconds, 39 appearances. He did have the most appearances, in the cast last season. So we're watching that very closely. Tied for 3rd, 81.1 power ranking, which puts him 5th as well. And of course, Sunday Supper might be the most Dismukes piece of the season so far.
I will say, though, that besides Sunday Supper, he hasn't had a lot of starring roles, Deej, in the last 4 or 5 episodes of the show. It does feel like he had a really hot start, and then, though he's been around, hasn't gotten his voice on the show in the last few weeks, and that could be like a goodbye to Bowen and them focusing on other cast members. But I am curious if they sort of go back to the Andrew, go back to Andrew a lot starting the new year.
Yeah, because the thing is, I had the thought here that he's very good at the playing against. Like, him and Padilla have a really great chemistry together, so I'm loving those 2 together. And we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes, because from table read to show, he may have had something great, but things sometimes get cut for time. Like last season with his puppet dad, but he managed to get on again. So I'm sure he's doing the output they need to do, but it always comes down to what are people going to what's going to be the final things for Thursday? What happens after dress rehearsal? But he's still a solid player. I'm very glad this season he's kind of gone off the whole cuckold role that he's done a lot in the past. So it's like, okay, that's a trope you can just put in the drawer and go away. I mean, you can tell that he loves what he does. For everything from he had 4 years in the writer's room, then onto stage. So he's, you can count on him to lead a sketch. You can count on him to be one of the other people in the sketch as well to bolster the humor. So I think he just goes where he's needed.
I think so. Dakota, how are you feeling about Dismukes' season so far?
Feeling pretty decent. Like, obviously the stats don't lie. He's had a consistent screen time throughout the season. I would like to see more of his voice again on the show with more, pieces that he's written and that are centered around him. I kind of miss the Jadge Mukes pairing that we had a few times there. We did get it once in the season with the experienced lawyers kind of thing, or at least at the top of it. If anything, I just want to see even more of him on the show. I think like what I noticed this season with Ego and Heidi leaving is that, it freed up a little bit of space for the other women in the cast to kind of take over. Obviously, we've seen the ascendance of Ashley, and even Chloe's come back more stronger. And I think I never root for anybody to leave the show, but like if Mikey and or Keenan were to go, I think it would give Andrew and a lot of the other featured players, it would give them a lot more room to kind of take over the show a little bit more. So if anything, I'm liking what Andrew's putting out, but I would just like to see even more.
He also had some rough cuts the last couple of weeks, which definitely influenced what we saw here. So one is that they had this bullying seminar assembly that was an Andrew Dismukes, James Austin Johnson piece that I would have loved to have obviously seen more Judge Mukes, and hopefully we get that. That was also cut in the spring as well. So that's unfortunate. And then he's been putting together these pre-tape films called the SNL Animal Index, and he had one that he made for Josh O'Connor and one that he made for Ariana Grande. They ended up showing both of them at the dress rehearsal of the Ariana Grande episode and didn't put either in the show. So I do wonder if they're holding them for this weekend, perhaps. So that's something I'm curious about. It's almost like a new trick, a new layer to him where we could get this like really unique pre-tape mic from him.
Yeah, for sure. He's never been a pre-tape stat king. Like he just hasn't in any of his seasons really that's why I want to mention the non-alcoholic beer, because it was one of the first times I can remember, other than the Michael B. Jordan falling down pre-tape that he had, was having a Dismukes led piece. Other than going to murder Lizzo when she has writer's block back then. But I would love to see that as much as I like to see the Martin Herlihy more social experiment type of things, is having that variety show element to SNL has been, I think, missing. We know it's going to be formulaic, but when we see those kind of out of the box pieces, it's really fun to see where people can shine, because it's really wide open right now, which is why I think, John, you've said the same thing. It's been the most fascinating stat year we've done, because we really don't know going into each week who's going to pop. And so I think Dismukes is always going to be consistent, but I would love to have like a third layer to Dismukes for sure. And he's kind of one of the last in the shadows personalities there. We've seen a little bit on Update, which I love to see, Puppet Dad that was mentioned by Deej, but really having his personality come forward and not in a character with a fake mustache on is maybe a fourth layer that I want to explore as well.
I definitely want to see them get back to Andrew and Ashley pairings. Just the fact that we saw them together in that appliance jingle sketch in the NHL PSA, that two people who just hooked up, like it just feels like a match made in heaven to have them on the show together, at least for me. So I would like to see them continue to do stuff on the show. Dakota, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Really appreciate getting to have you on.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. It's great to be back here, and good to meet you, Mike, and good to meet you, Deej. And
likewise,
just happy to be here.
Yeah, really a pleasure. And Deej, thank you as well as always.
Well, this is my first time with Mike Murray, so hi there. And now I just have to go get back together to editing Saturday Night Ladies, which is going on this Wednesday with Ajax and Brain Fog, Seth. I'm sorry, Ajax. I can't know the names wrong. Anyway, the guys from Cover Wars are on the show on the show this week. So my first time editing 5 people at once. What did I get myself into?
Oh yeah, try editing 18 people on the show here today. So,
I know. Well, I'm working my way up.
But yeah, great job, Deej. Can't wait to listen to that one. So appreciate you both for hanging out here with us tonight. Thanks, Dakota,
and all my network Deej. Friends.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mike, let's keep going. Let's jump over to our next section of the show where we're going to bring in Casey is here. Casey, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be on the first patron feedback show of 2026. And I'm starting the year with a new job, new outlook. So it's good to be back here.
Congrats.
Great to have you here, Casey. Thanks. And joining us as well for this section of the show is Xander. Xander, do we have you?
Do you have me?
Yes,
I think I'm in. Hey, gentlemen, thank you so much for having me back on the show. Happy to talk for 15 to 20 minutes and then probably go to bed maybe.
Okay. well, great. Well, here let's jump over to then the cast members that we're going to talk about here tonight. So we talked about Jaj Mook, so let's go to the Jaj portion of the pairing where Mike, James Austin Johnson has been taking over the cold opens this season as expected, but it's been a fascinating stats year for him as well.
Yeah, I've really liked what he's done outside that. Of course, we've seen Trump in almost every episode this season. I mean, not that that's a shock, considering what's going on, and he does it so well. So we're going to see more of it for sure. He's about to pass Alec Baldwin's record of Trump impressions this season, for sure. But let's talk about some other things too, because the cold opens we know about. Experienced lawyers, we mentioned Jaj Mook's back. Snack Homies we saw, and Property Brothers is a Trump one outside cold opens. So I do enjoy that. I think more because John, you've mentioned this a lot, seeing impression or a character in a different situation. So that was really fun for me. But I want to talk about the pilot announcement. That's his longest appearance outside of a cold open this season. Really rare instance where Nikki Glazer, the host, played like a very minimal B-roll. She kind of started the sketch as a flight attendant, and we didn't really go back to her very much. But we saw a Jaj and Cam pairing in the cockpit. James talking about his dating app success and failure, and texting ladies on there, which is really, really fun. He's obviously got a great pilot voice. And then especially Christmas duets, where he had 3 different duets. And of course, we mentioned Winter from Geese, and we saw Bob Dylan, my favorite. But seeing him and Ariana Grande just go toe-to-toe, tour de force, Andrea Bocelli, Celine Dion, the clip from the table read made me smile so much to see them sing in front of everybody, and how much fun the room was having. So I think this is James Austin Johnson's year, to be honest, to really take over the show and show that, of course, he can do Trump, but he can do so much more. We knew that he had it in him, and I've been saying it on my show constantly, and this is it. So 49 minutes, 5 seconds of screen time. That's 6 in the cast, 33 appearances. That's 8th in the cast, and he's 4th in the power ranking at 83.5.
Casey, how are you feeling about James this season?
I see sort of an upward trend with the way they're using him now, because obviously he's got his job secure on this show for the next 4 years playing you-know-who. But if you look at his notable roles, you'll see that out of 6 of those, 3 are doing the same impression, and another 3 are different characters, different impressions, singing impressions. So like when the season started out, it was like they didn't know how to use JAJ outside of Trump impressions, other than just have him play the straight roles, the dads, the just authority figures. And now they're having him with the pilot announcements and experienced lawyers there. With the pilot announcements, especially, they're letting him lead things and play more different characters. And with Christmas duets, they're letting him do more unique impressions that he might want to do. They're letting him branch out more. And I hope they continue this trend with him, because he's one of the cast members that they need to realize what they have with this guy. He could be the next Phil Hartman. He could be the next Bill Hader, Dan Aykroyd. He could be the next Will Ferrell. He could be the next utility man that's that they use for all types of things. Just they can use him in just as many impression roles as they can, just letting him do his own characters and just putting him in just random straight supporting roles. So they do need to let him branch out so he can play more types of roles to get to that level, because by this point in his tenure, it's something he's really truly earned.
Yeah, it definitely feels like this season they're doing that a little bit more than the last few seasons, which is exciting. Xander, how are you feeling about James right now?
Well, I am going to be a little biased because it's simply because I found out that we are actually distant cousins. This is the one and only time we've met.
Wow.
I took a 23andMe, and damn, I really had you. That's okay. It's a real picture, but we are not actually related.
Okay.
So I actually I spent a good amount of time like looking for that picture. Anyway, I'm sorry, my attention has been deviated.
No, it's fine. I thought we were
James-
just going to have to talk about that for the rest of the night, but please go ahead.
Oh,
We're
I
doing
wouldn't do
bits.
that. James, Judge is my guy. Like, bits aside, I feel like he, Casey mentioned him like approaching being on par with like Hartman and Hader, and I might, this might be a little far fetched. I think he's already there. If he wasn't there before, I think this season he's definitely arrived there. I think he has from the beginning he's had versatility that not everyone really recognizes simply because he's the Trump guy. But like I think this season especially one thing that this season has really impressed me with is the fact that he's gotten to showcase like that he's a musician and that he's like actually kind of a character actor. Now, of course, his airtime is still dominated by the Trump impression, but besides that, I'd say like I think of like the Mechanical Bull thing from Nikki Glazer's episode. It's kind of a fun sort of not indulgent, but like sort of niche character musical piece. Obviously, Christmas duets. I think he willed Geese being on the show into existence by virtue of that impression. So I think that's pretty cool. I just think he's kind of at the height of his powers right now, and it's as a fan, it's good to see.
Yeah, I think he's almost at the height of his powers, if I could say. Like I think that there's definitely more to mine from. It is the curse of having to play Trump that he is just not spread out in the show enough, but we've covered that in great detail. I do think that bringing up Mechanical Bull, which isn't listed in the notable roles, I think we have it for Sarah coming up, but I mean, James was obviously a huge part of that and a reason why that sketch was as great as it was. So certainly a notable one for him. I think another one that's not on here that I would bring up is like the emo mom sketch from the Amy Poehler episode. Like he was so good. It was a role that like Casey just described really well, which is like he's playing the goofy doofus dad there, and I almost feel like that's something that we just like never get from him, but he could be so good at it, very much like a lot of the cast members that Casey just talked about. So I just think that like these numbers are great. I just want even more because the talent is there. So like I can't get enough James Austin Johnson on the show. That's how I'm feeling right now. Mike, how do
I
you
also
want to wrap up
wanted
the
to
James
I
section?
wanted to mention the Dancing 101 because Eric earlier in the evening talked about playing against type, and when you see him in a sketch like that, I feel like even when I saw the exterior like establishing shot, we go into it, especially when Marcelo and Ariana came in, is kind of like, oh, what's James gonna do here? And that's not something we get a lot of because 47% of his time this season has been in the cold open, and we see him there. But I thought he killed it in that. It was like a great portion of that, of course, with Jeremy and Chloe as well. But seeing him do things that we talk about this so much, John, like Mikey Day being a guy in a sketch or like having someone to be utility. That's not a bad thing. It's a really important skill in SNL. But to have James do it, I think you just kind of expect something is up his sleeve, which makes it more exciting for me to see him in that role because he's not, like Casey mentioned, playing an authority figure. And of course, the emo mom one, though, he was such a great dad role right there. But I want to see him just do more of that. Like, why can't he be second or third guy in a sketch, just play a boyfriend or something? Even when he did the Maniscalco bachelor party, he had a wrinkle in it. You know, he's drinking the red wine over in the chair and talking about being, you know, the only guy unmarried and stuff. He has an ability to bring something to a role that maybe other skill sets that are great or equal to him have, but he has a different POV on it. So I love to see that from James.
And, he talks, there's a lot of cast members that talk about only getting comfortable in your 4th season on the show. I mean, go to his Instagram and go look at the table read that he posted of him and Ariana duetting and belting during that Christmas duets read through. It was just unbelievable stuff. So I'm excited for James, the second half of the season. Let's talk about Chloe Fineman here, who is looking pretty good in the stats, a huge improvement over last season, Mike.
Unbelievable improvement. So we talk about the less tenured women in the show who of course are seeing big gains in the stats, but Chloe Fineman I think has defied all odds. Talk about this recently on the show that I thought she might have been my one lock to leave the show after 50, and boy did she do the reverse. She's killing it in every category. Looking at her average from last year was 3 minutes 20 seconds, which was really not great for someone of her season amount. And now she's at 6 minutes per. So she's almost doubled that in 51. So Chloe Fineman, I think, had maybe a ton left in the chamber that we didn't get to see because of the reasons we say all the time. Was behind Heidi and Ego, but then was, behind Kate, 80, Cecily, all these like amazing women that now Freudian slip. Chloe is like really comfortable and is showing a lot that we did not see the past couple of years. Almost seemed a little tuned out, was kind of getting the same roles all the time. And now we're seeing a ton of Chloe. So it's 53 minutes and 52 seconds, 4th in the cast, 44 appearances, 2nd in the cast, and 3rd in the power ranking, getting close to 100 in the power ranking, which is really big. She's at a 92.5. So I'll let one of our panelists talk about some of their favorite appearances.
Yeah, Xander, are you related to Chloe?
I checked. This is gonna sound a little weird. I did it with every cast member. I kind of went a lark and was like, let's just see, because I'm trying to get that like an echo wire eventually. So I'm like, how can I make this easier for myself? So far, no dice. Oh well. Okay, Chloe.
Xander, we are losing you internet connection wise. So do you want to just hop out and hop back in, and I'll just head over to Casey for his thoughts on Chloe?
Cool. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, Casey, let me get your thoughts on Chloe's season so far.
Well, I think Chloe and JAJ are kind of in the same boat. I mean, some might say Chloe's a bit more divisive, but they were both hired for their skills and impressions. Chloe's not being, pigeonholed into doing one nonstop, but she's done some scattered impressions, and they are starting to use her in utility roles, but like those are mostly support roles, playing moms, daughters, and girlfriend or lady who just sits next to Sarah Sherman and reacts to people. But those notable roles you posted are those are her highlights, I would say. I did like all these snack homies, a little off-putting at first, but it grew on me over time. But the thing is, the thing with Chloe and Sarah, and with the whole female cast right now, really, is that it's obvious that losing Heidi and Ego this season has created a bit of a hole in the female cast. There's a little bit of instability, and the female cast may need to be restabilized a bit. And I say this because with Heidi and Ego Khan, that leaves Chloe and Sarah as the most tenured women, the senior women, the leads of the female cast. And so now the female side of the cast is in a similar situation to where the male side of the cast was in season 30, where Jimmy Fallon left, and now Seth and Fred were the male leads, and they didn't quite have the acting chops to lead their side of the cast, or they were just too too much of a niche performer, or too much of a unique comedic performer to, be the lead, the everyman, the every woman. And I mean, it is pretty obvious that Ashley Padilla could take the lead and be the anchor of the female cast. And I think Veronica's showing that potential. But, Chloe's doing some solid, dependable work, but just her and Sarah being in the positions that they're in just does remind you that, the female cast does need some restructuring, but they've got the tools, they've got the solution in front of them. I do agree. Obviously, cast really needs a woman of color, whoever just said that, but they should promote Ashley to kind of, pick up the slack and lighten Chloe and Sarah's workload a bit so they can, focus on getting their passion projects on the show that fit their niches.
Yeah. And Xander, I just want to make sure we can get your thoughts on Chloe in. Do we have you now?
Am I coming through okay?
You're a little choppy. We'll try for a minute and I'll just cut you off if we're not getting you. So go ahead.
Okay, I'll make this quick. Chloe, I'd say my feelings for a while haven't been overwhelmingly positive. I'm not gonna go on a diatribe, just not my favorite. I'd say at a time like now where unfortunately the male to female cast ratio is a bit more disproportionate than usual. Whether or not that has anything to do with this, she has gotten some chances to actually shine. The Glenn Powell episode specifically, which I'd say was a high point for the season thus far. She had a couple great showcases there. I'd say, she's getting movies, she's getting commercials. I'd say if she wanted to go out after the season, I would applaud the decision, and I'd say she'd be going out on high, even for someone who's not always up on her. That sounded weird. Anyway, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, thank you, Xander. I appreciate the thoughts. Honestly, I think that Chloe's having a better season than I thought she would. I'm actually pretty impressed with the stat line that we have here. Ultimately, I do think that they've, haven't given the show to her in a way that maybe some were worried about. I think that she had my favorite thing from her this season has been the scent of the marriage thing that we ended up getting. I do think she has a tendency to work off of the other women in the cast or a hot male lead. And I think that she would be really well served to work off some more male members of the cast, the way that she does with Mikey Day and those altercation sketches. I think that there's a lot of potential for her to be a really good supporting player. And I think she has done that pretty well this season, Mike, but ultimately I think that there's more that we could see from her in the second half of the season. So let's wrap up the Chloe section with your final thoughts.
Yeah, like I said earlier, she's going to smash every record of her career this season. So if it is her last and there's a passing of the torch to the next two women we're going to talk about, then that would make sense. But I think that this is we do a lot of sports comps talking about a quarterback who goes to a new team with either a new OC or just a better, situation and really succeeds. I think that if Chloe Fineman had left after 50, we'd be having a way different conversation about her legacy. And so this has really been a legacy making season for her. So if you're a big Chloe fan or you're a big hater, the numbers don't lie. And I think that it's really a positive thing to see someone really bring it at this point in the career, especially with her castmate, Bowen Yang, from their season 45, leaving and having this runway for her and leading the women has been a positive thing. She's also been in 12 out of 20 pre-tapes. So she's also talking about pre-tape stats earlier tonight. She's been leading those and has been really everywhere in the show. So I don't think you really ask much more for the workload for Chloe Fineman. It's just maybe finding like the traffic altercation. I would love to see one more like Chloe Fineman best of DVD moment in this season, regardless if she's back in 52.
She definitely has the runway for it. So let's see what happens. Casey, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. And I guess my last word on Chloe would be, someone somewhere said like she's the type of cast member who seems like if she is getting more movies and commercials and just, fashion and beauty endorsements and things. Someone said she seems like she's more interested in becoming a celebrity than just being a comedian or actress. And I get that vibe. And sometimes it seems like some of her humor on and off SNL is a little bit less accessible because of that. And her co-star Bowen Yang left SNL because he clearly has that potential to be the next celebrity or the next actor to dominate Hollywood. And if that's what Chloe Fineman wants, if that's her ambition, then she should leave the show to pursue that at the end of the season.
Well, we will definitely be talking about that as we head towards the end of the season. So thank you, Casey, for joining us here tonight. Thanks, Xander, as well. Thank you for being here.
Could I get in a quick plug or two? Or do we?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
All right. So just wanted to update you guys that me and Deej, for the next while, for this year on We Art Hater, we're alternating between reviewing all of season 33 of SNL and all of the first 2 seasons of Documentary Now. So that's our plan. And if anyone out there wants to talk about either of those seasons, either of those shows, and be a guest, feel free to reach out to either Deej or myself, and maybe we could work you in, and maybe we could even hear Jon come back on our show and talk about that season a bit.
Definitely. Thanks, Casey. And thank you, Xander. Appreciate you both joining us here tonight. All right, let's head to our final section of the evening where we will talk about the final 2 cast members. So first, let's bring in Shari. Shari is here. Shari, how are you?
Hi.
Shari.
Welcome to the show. Happy to have you, Shari.
Hi, Jon. Hi, Mike. Great to see you both.
And let's bring in Max is here. Max, what's up, buddy?
Hi, Max.
Hey, hello. It's going well outside of what's behind me, but
Yeah.
otherwise going well.
Yes, my condolences for your loss yesterday, but
We all saw it coming.
Coming off a championship, I think you can have a year off. But let's keep going. Let's talk about our penultimate cast member that we're going to talk about here tonight, and that is Sarah Sherman. So, Mike, let's set up Sarah's season.
Sarah, being the second most tenured woman of the cast, is clearly having a good year. Just had her HBO special, which I watched very recently. So if you were missing some squirm in SNL, then you got more squirm than you could possibly imagine in that. So if you're into that, check that out, please. But look at her stats right here. 39 appearances. So she's, right below Chloe and Ashley, but is top of the cast there. She's tied for 3rd right now. 57 minutes, 21 seconds makes her 3rd in screen time as well. And a 94.0 power ranking makes her 2nd. So really seeing the seeds planted in 47 when we had James Austin Johnson and Sarah Sherman. When did they really mature into SNL stars? It's now. It's season 51. So it's really like, that kind of 4th or 5th year. The SNL trajectory has definitely changed in the 2000s and to now, where Sarah Sherman is like really doing it all. I know I said that about Chloe Fineman, but they've done very similar things so far. So I have to repeat that. So we've talked a lot about, how come we haven't got a lot of Sarah pieces? There's not been enough beheadings or blood, things of that nature, but we know that she has it in her, and I'm sure we'll see more of it. But I feel like the top notable roles you have, Jon, is maybe the update raccoon. So the drunk raccoon from Virginia was kind of a callback to some old Sarah pieces. When me and you were at the show, we saw the owl widow, things of that. But I thought this might have been one of her best. So we're seeing more of those kind of big characters. And then the mechanical bull, which we did mention a little bit for Judge, but was a great, I think Sarah has facilitated a very safe, comfortable rapport with hosts, and that's a good example of that with Nikki Glazer.
Shari, how are you feeling about Sarah's season right now?
I think she's having an incredible season. I know people hate on her a little bit because she's not as squirmy as she used to be. She's doing a lot of girlfriend and wife roles now, but I think that just shows that she's a very versatile player, and she's a team player, and she's willing to do what she's got to do. If that means, as Demi said on our show, she's going to put on a brown wig and be a plain girlfriend, then that's what she's going to do. And that's what I think a good cast member does. I think she's having a huge season.
I definitely think that the squirm factor is something to think about in 51, just because she just released this special. It seems to be getting a lot of great reviews. She's doing a lot of press for it. I wonder if the show looks at it and says, like, okay, maybe we can just get one of these types of sketches into the show in the way that she was doing a few years ago, because the stats are incredible. She's clearly all over the show and being leaned on heavily, Max, but the notable roles are lacking somewhat here. A couple times on Update, Mechanical Bull, but like not really like a Sarah dominated season in terms of her voice, and it's not so dissimilar to what we saw last year.
Yeah, it's like a little weird that she's second in power rankings almost. Like I see her everywhere, but I can't really think of a sketch from the season where I can think of one for everyone else. I can't really think of one that I'm like, that is Sarah's sketch outside of the three that are here.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. How are you feeling about the season though from Sarah? Do you wish we would see anything different from her? Or are you okay with what she's doing?
I think I'm okay with it. I'm never like the biggest fan of the squirm stuff. I don't hate it, but I like that's not my type of comedy, so I'm not opposed to getting less of it, even though maybe like we shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm like kind of in the middle there.
Yeah, that's fair. Mike, anything that you would like to see different from Sarah in the second half of the season?
I don't know about different, because we're just talking about the things that we've, acknowledged that she's done in the past, especially to make her a name for herself. She's been in tons of live sketches. So 25 out of the 51 live sketches have included Sarah Sherman, behind only Ashley Padilla, tied with Chloe. So talking about the women really having to, make quick changes and be in multiple sketches a night, Sarah definitely fits that mold. It's 42 minutes, 42 seconds of her time in just live sketches. I feel like maybe, as I mentioned, the Mechanical Bull, I like seeing these two-handers with the host. I remember like the Michael B. Jordan roller coaster one, like things like that. I feel like she just does really well with that, especially to be, if you have a host that needs to play straight and have her be the wacky person. I like to see more of that rather than the, Sarah being a Keenan or a Mikey and reacting to things. It can only go so far with that. She's done fine with it, but it's just not something that's super sustainable right now. I like to see more of like let's just put her in a pairing with a cast member or a host and have a, go forward in that way, rather than maybe making a whole squirm pre-tape with Dan Bulla, which is great, or Update. So I think that would be my suggestion.
And one of the other storylines for Sarah this season is her connection to Jack Benzinger, who's one of the new writers, who happens to be getting a lot of stuff on the show, but not necessarily the Sarah written pieces. There's two sketches recently that got cut at Dress that were Jack and Sarah pieces. First was a Twilight Zone Toilet Zone sketch that took place in the Glenn Powell episode. That didn't make it. And then one that ended up online that didn't make it, which was the Robin Pops Last Stop Christmas Shop that we got from the last episode. That's one that a lot of people have seen, and they were like, oh, this is a really fun thing from Sarah, but didn't make the live show. And I guess the question is, why? Is it just, they didn't have time for it, or they're not prioritizing it? Because, clearly she's one of the stars of the season. So, it's going to be one of those things that we're going to be continuing to talk about, especially as we get to the end of the season, of like, what is Sarah's legacy at the show? She has had the ability to take over it, and the show hasn't chosen to use her in that way. And ultimately, how will people feel about her at the end of her career? I totally love that she's there. I just love her personality and wish we saw more of it. So we'll see what happens moving forward with Sarah. Let's move on to our final cast member we'll be talking about here tonight, and that is Ashley Padilla, who, on the other hand, has been totally used this season to the fullest potential that you could have gotten from Ashley, where she is at the top of the power ranking, the top of the appearance stats, and the top of the screen time, Mike.
The triple crown of SNN is what Ashley Padilla is doing right now. So I think if this can sustain through 51, we have to have the conversation officially that this could be one of the best seasons, if not the best featured player season of all time. I think she's already there, but it's a matter of keeping it up for 11 more episodes in this season and seeing how the show looks with some new hosts and post Bowen. And Ashley has really done everything really except, maybe doing some pre-tape work, maybe some political stuff. I would say that about Sarah as well. If you want to be like a Kate McKinnon, you have to kind of like play all three zones and do that kind of stuff.
Disagree, Mike. She's played Caroline Levitt a couple times.
Yeah, but that's kind of a foil to Trump. It's not really like a Kate McKinnon being like Jeff Sessions or Giuliani. So I like to see.
Are there those people there? Like, I think like.
Well, it depends on the news, of course, but I'm talking about, how can you really pick apart, nitpick Ashley's season, and that's one of them because it's, at least we did see it. Got a live from New York from her. I love that plane press conference cold open we saw. It was really great for Ashley, and she also did that like press conference one a couple weeks earlier than that too. But when you have the Triple Crown, you got over an hour of screen time. You're a featured player. Everyone's talking about you, and you're really just completely making a name for yourself on the show. Not really seeing anything from Ashley elsewhere. So she's really, all her star power has been on Saturday nights at 11:30. It's a throwback, John. It's somebody who could have been on the show in any era, I feel like, which is one of the greatest compliments that I give to people on my podcast is really, if you can do that and succeed at it, it's great. Does live sketch material. I mean, I'm looking at her stats. It's like kind of like, I feel like I would say the same thing for each one of them, all the categories, because of how dominant it's been. And talk about some notable appearances like the haircut sketch, which got a little bit, a YouTube feature on the creation of it and her Groundlings background of doing that sketch, bringing it to the show, failing to get it on, then bringing it back and having it succeed with Glenn Powell that week. And the Disnukes pairing has been, as I mentioned, one of my favorite things this season. So Ashley Padilla, like, sky's the limit, but she's already, in the clouds right now and killing it. So I think if we can get a power ranking winner to be a featured player, that'll be a great feather in the cap for what should be a long career at the show.
Max, what do you feel about Ashley's season?
I feel a lot of awesome things about Ashley's season. I was trying to think earlier today, because obviously it's the SNL, we can't not make a sports comparison. I was trying to think of her baseball comp, and I had come up with a few. You can't call her Ohtani or Judge yet. It's too early for that. Could be biased. I could be biased. Call her like Bryce Harper in 2021. Triple Crown. You can call her Tariq Skubal. I think I finally settled on it just now. Ashley Padilla to me is 2023 Corbin Carroll.
Okay. I like that. I do like that a lot. They're probably a niche section of our audience.
Very niche, but
exactly what you're saying. But the idea here is essentially somebody who's coming out of nowhere and sort of like, the seeds are there. You see the potential, but just this astronomical jump that nobody expected to have. And I think that everyone knew coming into the season, Max, that Ashley had potential, but we never thought we would be getting this so quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Shari, how are you feeling about Ashley right now?
I mean, you all said it. Wow, I don't really need to repeat too much. She's having an astounding season. Like Mike said, this is like, I mean, I've been watching this probably longer than all three of you since I'm the oldest one here. I don't think we've ever seen this from a featured player. She came out of the gate. I mean, I know she's getting compared to Kate a lot. So I'm interested that Mike said that, because Kate came on and she killed it almost from the beginning. And she's the last one I remember doing that. And Ashley's got that same kind of star power. And I think she's going to be one of those 8, 9, 10 year, because she's a perfect fit for this show.
She really is. And I think that I said before on the podcast that people like Ashley Padilla, or people having seasons like Ashley Padilla, are the reason why I watch this show, truly, because I like to see greatness. And that's what SNL at its core, besides the fact, you're making sketch comedy and all of that, like it is part of the premise of the show that you just pull these people out of nothing. And all of a sudden they go from being absolute nobodies to being the biggest stars in the world that are, dominating TV and film, and we get to see them first. We get to see them, become a star. And I think that there has been a lot of great cast members in the last generation of the show, but no one has, just taken over the conversation the way that Ashley has. And it's the excitement of seeing like an Eddie Murphy join the show. And then you're like, wow, this young kid is going to be like a big name forever. And I think that's what we're getting with Ashley. It's still very early in her career. And of course we want to put, we don't want to put the world on her shoulders, but like, we have this picture on screen. The S in Ashley kind of looks like a dollar sign here, Mike. And I'm looking at it and like, she's going to make a lot of money for the show in the next few years.
It does. And credit to the casting and Lorne for like finding this diamond in the sketch world. We talked a lot about how they've leaned towards stand-ups and how COVID really messed with finding talent in that pool. And so now we're seeing a couple years later finding Ashley Padilla, like you said, just like plucked out of nowhere into leading the biggest sketch comedy show in the world in SNL. And it's just been such a fun ride to see. Like, and she just seems like so genuine and down to earth about it, this historic rise, that we don't want to put too much added pressure on her, because like, how can you really top this? But going from a rookie season that had a big cast, big cameos, 50th year, and she mentioned when she was on her first late night appearance that didn't even make it on screen in her one appearance that she did in the Domingo sketch in SNL 50, but she averaged 2 minutes 50 seconds, which is like not great but not terrible for a rookie year. We talked a lot about Jad's rookie year and how he had maybe the best rookie season we've seen since we've been podcasting. That was it 3 minutes 17 seconds per episode, which is like decent again for a featured player, but not historic. So from 250 last season to now 7 minutes 8 seconds a week. And that includes an episode or two that wasn't great stat wise. Looking at her numbers, like it's almost crazy when you don't see a lot of Ashley in a night. And that was like the premiere with Bad Bunny, Nikki Glazer's episode, and then the last one with Ariana. So other than that, her power rankings have been like dark green, over 100 every single week. It's just fascinating.
And to throw out one more numbers stat here, it's so incredible how many sketches she's been in 46 sketches in 9 episodes. That's a 5.11 sketch per episode average, which, again, it's just one half of a season. But we put up a graphic during the off weeks over the last few weeks of the top SPE getters in the history of the show, 30 or more episodes, and having over a 5 for your career is like lock Hall of Fame pantheon stuff. That's what she's doing this season so far. So we'll see if she can keep it up. That's one of the most exciting storylines I cannot wait to see for these next 11 episodes. So Shari, thank you so much for joining us here for our final section of the night. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you, Mike and Max.
Great to
Thanks
see you,
so
Shari.
much, Max. Appreciate you as well.
Thank you for having me. Do you mind if I quickly plug someone else's YouTube series that is SNL related?
Sure, go for it.
Right. So if you have not heard of Dallas Taylor on YouTube, I don't know exactly who he is or how he got big, but he's like someone in the sound and music world who just started YouTube a few months ago, and he has this really cool series, releasing like one episode every 2 or 3 weeks, going behind the scenes of SNL. He talks to pretty much every single person involved in the sound and music of SNL during the week of the Scarlett Johansson finale from last year. It's so cool, super in-depth. You learn a lot of really cool things about the making of the show. So if you want to learn anything about SNL that you maybe haven't seen before, that is a really cool series to check out.
Thank you so much for promoting that, Max. I did get to check that a little bit. Looks like he got to hang out at the show for the finale. Very cool stuff. So really great to see some more behind the scenes areas of the show that you don't normally get to see. So appreciate you, Shari. Appreciate you, Max, for joining us here today.
Thanks, Max.
All right, Mike, we did it. What a marathon. This was fun.
That was fun. And we didn't even cover Bowen Yang because he's no longer in the cast. So we
No
made it
longer in
work.
the cast.
Even number, 16 cast members. Great guests tonight. I love to see the support and hear the voices of these people. That is the whole reason that we have a show together. We've been doing
seriously,
this.
the lifeblood of the SNN is everybody who joined us here tonight and everybody who listened. So if you ever thought about doing this and you want to come on with us for a future show, you're totally welcome to do that. We have sign-up forms once a month, patreon.com/SNL
don't be shy.
Network. Yeah, 100%. And we have different podcasters who join us every month too, so you get to meet some of them. A lot of people excited to meet you here tonight, Mike. I did put out a question form before. Can I throw a couple questions at you that we didn't get to? I thought if you have a few more minutes.
Yeah, sure. I got the stats open. Let's do it.
Let's take this one from Alexis, who sent in a question. Said, which new cast member do you think has had the best season so far? So we talked about all the rookies, but who would you say is like rookie of the year leading the voting right now?
I would say Veronica right now. The stats back it up. I think Jeremy has the excitement of the upside that maybe Veronica has maybe shown her cards a little bit more than Jeremy has, so people want to root for that story. But I think definitely Veronica. She's like on pace to have over an hour screen time in a rookie year, is really kind of been in all aspects of the show, and I think that the Jane Wickline pairing is something to watch going forward. I would say Veronica. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I mean, lowest odds there, I'd say if you go to Vegas, like you probably win the least on putting down a Veronica right now, just with the runway ahead of her. I think Ben probably has an outside shot, but I do, like I said, I think there's a couple pivots we talked about tonight that we need to see more from Ben and other people's sketches. So if we can get back to that, I think that would be really good. This one comes in from Sale Holly on Instagram. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Thanks for sending in a question. Is it more likely they promote a writer to cast mid-season 51 or hire someone new? So as I said at the top of the show, still waiting for that answer. Hopefully we will find out. I think there's been no press release, so I think that if they were going to hire somebody new, I think that they wouldn't be in any photos like those photos from the table. I think they wouldn't be in any promo stuff. SNL is going to do their best to hide that. Typically, the trades end up picking up this stuff. Someone at the show will, let people know, and then there's sort of some press release later in the week. But there is always a chance that we get to Saturday night and a new cast member does pop up. Do you think they would ever take someone out of the writers' room, or you think they have somebody maybe waiting in the wings?
I think they definitely would take from the writers' room. I think Rachel Pegram is one to watch. I think Joe Sunday, we saw her in the Hurley pre-tape very briefly, but I think that definitely you have to talk about it, like seriously lacking woman of color. And if you have one already in the room, that's like such a easy transition. Don't have that pressure maybe that was put on Sashir when they had the same situation, unfortunately, back number of years ago. So I think that would be the smartest, safest choice, and really just fix a wrong that the season's been facing so far.
Yeah, definitely. Bryson sends in a question, says, what's this thing about Chris Redd? I think that's for a patron podcast. So I'm going to save that for behind the paywall. So we will, I'll definitely talk about that. There's a lot, it's like a very long story there. If you haven't watched what Chris Redd put on Instagram, definitely.
That's the game.
Yeah, definitely go do that. That's behind the paywall content. So thanks, Bryson, for sending in the question. So you got to become a patron to hear our thoughts on that one. I think that shortest and longest sketch of the season, that one comes from Captain_Mateo. Do you have that information easily accessible? For shortest and longest.
Look that up. Shortest and longest of any segment, or
it's not including monologues, pre-tapes, or performances. So I guess like live sketches. Do we have any?
Okay,
really
that would be the Italian restaurant date 10-1 Miles Teller, when Marcella was facing down a first shutout of his career, and I think they really sliced up that sketch because it was wicked short, 3 minutes 5 seconds for that one. For longest live sketch would be the Boys podcast. Snack Homie Sabrina Carpenter was 5:57.
Okay. Wow. All right. There you go. Very interesting. This one comes from C. Jackerman64. It's a bit dark early, but what members could realistically be fired after the season? So we don't root for firings ever on this show. So that's just to be clear. However, Mike's power rankings are a little sick and twisted. Like sometimes they're very predictive. So
they're too powerful.
They're very powerful.
If you've been following By The Numbers, and of course, if you watched tonight's show, you saw the cast generally in order of lowest to highest power ranking. So, we can do a abbreviated version of that right now, which is the bottom of the cast is Jeremy Culhane, 46.2 at 15th. This still counts Bowen, so it's going to be the 17. Jane Wickline, 42.7 at 16th. And 17th is Cam Patterson at 33.8. So at 33.8 right now, that is like a really that's a problem. And I mentioned that Cam's roles outside update, a lot of them were kind of in garbage time. Like even when he had like more than 20 seconds of screen time, it wasn't really into like, it was like the Bob Army with Glenn Powell, where Cam didn't even have a line in that sketch. So that's definitely, I would have to say the numbers don't lie for that. The power rankings have done this year after year. And it's always like, oh shit, like this is, I almost feel like this is like taboo now that we're doing this, because it's worked out so much in that way. Other than like some veterans who have, left for other reasons and not just been, canned after a year or two, a la Luke Null, Lauren Holtz, Aristotle, and things like that. So if you're looking at Jane in year 2 and don't think that really there's enough emphasis on her style to warrant an upgrade in Cam Patterson for a one and done, it has to be those. I think Jeremy at a 46.2, who's like, really in the hunt with Ben and Tommy. I could see one of those three not making it because they're, the white guy in a sketch show. I think Ben has the longevity for having history. So that's a possibility, but they are a little higher than Jane and Cam.
Well, they have 11 more episodes to get it together and move up the power ranking because, we don't have enough data yet to know. And really, stats are just records of events. So don't hate
That's
the
correct.
player. Hit the game.
Don't hate me.
Don't hate Mike. Okay.
Just the messenger here.
Yeah, exactly. We're having a lot of fun here this season, obviously, and hopefully you enjoy getting to hang out with us. So if it's your first time checking us out, please subscribe to the podcast. That would be a wonderful New Year's gift, is that you come and join us for our journey throughout 2026, where we will be back with more podcasts this week, including another fun patron-only feature we're going to unlock this week. So we've been doing these 20 years later look backs at season 31. Sammy K and I, every single week that there's been a season 31 episode, we've gone back and watched those episodes and talked about them and showed some clips in the podcast too. So that's been really fun. We're going to be talking about Scarlett Johansson's first time as an SNL host with Death Cab for Cutie. That one will release on Wednesday night live on our channel. So it will be open for everybody. So you could sort of see the format. And if you enjoy that, you can check out the rest of those episodes are all linked via our Patreon. And we'll continue that throughout the rest of the season. So that will be out this week on Wednesday night. And then on Saturday night, I will be back for the Hot Take Show immediately following the Finn Wolfhard and ASAP Rocky episode of Saturday Night Live. It will be great to get to hang out with everybody after the show once again. Mike, are you pumped for this weekend?
Can't wait. It's been a great break to rest and let the SNL supercomputer cool off. But we'll be back Wednesday night after every live show, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we do all this type of stuff. We get to talk about a lot of historical comparisons, really dive into what makes SNL. And by the way, I just want to say Sammy K is just what an incredible find. Talking about picking a diamond out of the rough, like this guy is has blossomed into like a really, really strong podcaster. Just want to shout out Sammy K.
Yeah, he's our Ashley Padilla this season, just killing it. So great stuff there.
Yeah, upgrade. Promote Sammy K.
Promote Sammy to repertory player. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. So yeah, there's a fun episode coming up to talk about with him this week. Of course, next Monday in the slot, we'll be back for our roundtable. Then Mike will have the program on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. where he'll take over the podcast for all the stats from week number 10 of season 51. If you want to become a patron, patreon.com/the SNL Network, be subscribed to the podcast, and you can follow us on all social platforms at the SNL Network. I also want to thank Late Nighter for being the presenting partner for our show here tonight, and everyone who hung out with us for 2.5 hours. Great, lively live chat for the first time back here in 2026. It's going to be a great year for the SNN, for SNL, and for all of our friends around the world who check this out. So appreciate you, Mike, for joining us here. And on behalf of everyone at the Saturday Night Network, my name is Jon Schneider, and we will see you next time